Okay, hello. Hello. Hopefully you can actually hear me. because I can't check Streamlabs right now. At least not easily. Because since this is a different sort of game, I have to actually use screen capture for this. So I'm not looking at Streamlabs at the moment. So hopefully I am audible. So hi guys. Yeah, I'm late. I know. But normally I don't stream at all on Fridays. We know this by now. Normally I do not stream at all on Fridays. And I'm getting a late start. And I haven't eaten for about 6.5 hours, and it's only 11:30 in the morning. Yeah, do the math. I've been up since 3 a.m. But yeah, so it's gonna be a bit of a different stream today. As I said on Twitter, I'm too tired to do anything more complicated than reading. Now, this is not something I don't know if anybody has ever streamed, or if anybody will ever watch, because it's basically a visual novel. Okay, so I'm just basically going to be doing a lot of reading. But it's a very interesting story. Not what I expected when I first loaded it up. It is interesting. So, I have done one playthrough of this. But there are 5 options, so to speak, for how you can take the story. At least, I guess. And I only did one, and I kind of accidentally did that one. Because of chance and circumstances and the way events fell into place in the story. So, it'll be different. And like I said, it's going to be a shorter stream today. I'm starting late. I don't know if I'll get interrupted. It is Friday. People usually don't work on Fridays, so there's a very, very, very high chance that they'll be coming home early. I really hope you guys can hear me. I wish somebody would say something. So let me know if you can hear me, because I cannot check Streamlabs right now without losing the screen, because I have it on screen capture, and I hate doing screen capture, but it seems to be the only way it'll work, since it's not your usual sort of game. But anyway, I have to get a drink because I'm going to be doing a lot of reading in this game. But as I said, it is an interesting story. It is definitely not what I expected. It is a visual novel, yes, but you actually have skills and inventory and outfit changes, and it's different. It's different. And I would say some other things, but if you follow me on Twitter, you probably know a little bit about this game already. Or if you've watched my series before, you probably also know why there might be certain things in this game that I like. Just saying. But anyway. So it's an interesting kind of game. An interesting kind of game. So I guess we'll just get it started. Like I said, this is a visual novel. And I know that it's hard enough to get people to watch a visual novel at all, if anybody even does. And I know there's also the downfall of, if you miss the beginning, you basically missed the beginning of the story. And it probably won't make a lot of sense. It probably won't draw a lot of people in. But I'm hoping, that maybe 1 or 2 people click on this and say, well, this looks interesting. Let's watch this. So, and it is interesting. I found it interesting. I did have to use a walkthrough for one scene in the game. Again, if you follow my Twitter, you know what I'm talking about. But I guess we should get on with it, because I don't know how soon I'm going to get interrupted. And I'm going to be having to do a lot of talking here, so I guess I need to save my voice and get to it. So let's get to it then. Here we go. Ebon Light, everybody. And I'm going to pick a different path, so to speak. I didn't pick my favorite choice for something when I did it the first time. Like I said, things just kind of happened. But let's go. Let's go. Alright. So, you get to pick your own name, yay. And of course it doesn't want to cooperate with me, as always. Okay, anyway, we'll just use my old standard. It's kind of a strange name for a normal character in a normal kind of world, but alright, so hairstyle, hair color, eye color, skin color. Let's see. I might go with this one. I used, I think, that one when I did it before. So, I might go with this one maybe this time. And I kept her with black hair before. So I might go for something different this time. Oh, that's even blacker than the black hair that I had. Okay, so the only red is kind of almost brown. So I was thinking, yeah, in case you hadn't noticed by now, my first choices for hair colors in games are usually black, then red, then blonde. Lord forbid I actually use my real hair color, which is brown. But, the really light blonde looks okay as well. But I guess we'll go with the red this time. Eye color, I went with blue. My actual eye color is blue, but we might do something different this time. And no, I cannot zoom in. I'm sorry, guys. I cannot zoom in. What? It's kind of a grayish. It's kind of hard to see. Very faint green there. So many decisions, right? Guess I'll just stick with that. I think I used a different shade of blue before. Skin color, I usually go uber pale just like I am in real life, but I don't know. That uber pale there looks kind of sickly almost. I mean, not just sickly, but kind of corpse-like. But then again, I'm very, very pale in real life. Guess we'll just go with that one. Now, select a disposition. Charm. Apparently it boosts attractive and likable. Cunning. Clever and observant. Tenacity. Resilient and determined. Now, I did pick cunning, which I'm going to probably pick again. It does slightly change her expression. But, I think I might stick with that, though, because I know there's some parts that are very, very difficult to know what to do, and I have at least gotten through it once with cunning. I'm not sure if I should switch that up. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. I'm still debating on this hair, though. Yeah, that is the one I used before that. This one right here. But I guess we'll go with this, but I don't know how it's changed my hair color. Alright. I guess we'll stick with that for now. Yeah, that's all the customization you get, but again, it is a visual novel, so. There was once a tomb that buried only the living. Okay. I guess we're starting already. So, there was once a tomb that buried only the living. The people who built the tomb were plagued with a terrible affliction, but before the affliction could consume them, they sealed the plague away in the body of a creature. You know, now that I finished the game once, the beginning has extra meaning to it, so to speak. Now that I finished it once, I didn't even think of it when I finished the game the first time, but yeah. Anyway, we'll get to it, right? We'll get to it. So, yeah, they were plagued with a terrible affliction, but before the affliction could consume them, they sealed the plague away in the body of a creature. The creature itself was kind and gentle, so very much so that in the great nobility of its heart, it had accepted its fate without complaint. But the people were afraid that one day the creature would escape from the tomb, and the affliction would return, so they gathered their remaining warriors, and they made their warriors into guardians. The guardians swore an oath that they would guard the creature for as long as there was need, even if that need should be endless. With the creature, they entered the tomb and sealed themselves within, unaware of what they had promised. Years stretched on, and the guardians stood vigil. The affliction no longer threatened the people. And so, as people often do, they forgot. Hopefully you guys can hear it. I did check it, but I'm still not sure if you guys can hear me, so somebody needs to tell me. But anyway, but deep where the light could no longer reach, the warriors' conviction had begun to wane. Their vow had come with a terrible cost. The task was simply too much to bear. For who can truly comprehend the unending? Yes, it's a visual novel, but it's not the typical kind you see, like, at least not the typical kind I've seen in passing. So, it's probably one of the only 2 visual novels I've actually finished. So, anyway, time had turned their duty into a torment, and they were consumed by desperation. They yearned for the light and the warmth of the sun, and they despised the darkness around them. When their desperation became rage, they betrayed the creature. They clawed out of the earth and were blinded by the sun, unaware that they had unleashed a forgotten affliction. And this is Vanya Garfil. I guess I have the same last name they already gave me. But, alright. Are you done? Yes. In Edric, stories are usually relished. What else is there to do with an idle mind? Yeah, I'm surprised it gave me the same last name, but I guess it makes sense. But anyway, and what was I to take from this miserable little tale, Nocturna? Let's see. I don't even remember what I picked. It's been so long. It's a very long game, guys. It's a very long, well, story, I guess, but let's see. Trying to remember what I did pick. Any opinions, guys? Okay. So, let's see. Yeah, I only looked at a walkthrough for one single scene in the game, and it's like 2/3 of the way through the game. So, let's see. I guess I'll go with no idea. Hi, I guess I'll go with darkness cannot be sealed away. A terrible affliction contained? If every story I've ever heard is even the tiniest bit true, stuffing darkness under a rock never works. I see. You have much to do, Nocturna. Go on, get to work. Yeah, this is a different kind of game. Have you seen any of my tweets about this game? Do you have any idea? Or didn't you see the tweets? It was a few days ago. 2 or 3 days ago. I was tweeting about this game. But yeah. So, I have much to do. I should get to work. I didn't change her last name, so that's the default last name, unfortunately. Some ideas. On my way into the village, I discovered that Edric had visitors. It's rare to see outsiders here, but these men were an exception. They came just often enough that we were no longer surprised by them. Most of the time, they kept to themselves. But even the friendliest of their number would grow evasive and choose words very carefully if asked too many questions. Luckily for their dislike of meddling, we disliked change. We left each other be, and it suited one another fine. I wonder if I can change the text speed. I think I can. Yeah, I'm going to change it a little bit. And I might as well save, too, because you know me and the saving. Alright. As would happen, I was caught in a conversation with one of our visitors, Rylan, a crew member of the Serpentine. The most beautiful ship men dare dream of. Not that I had anything to compare with, nor the wish to disagree. Pretty boys. Yes! What? What do you mean? Are you insinuating that I like pretty boys? It's like you have seen my streams before or something. I don't know. But there's only a few, maybe? Alright. Just a few. Okay, so... What is it? Spice, my dear. But from where? Well, I'm not sure. Surely you have some idea. You remember when you got it, don't you? I remember when, yes, but, well, I'm sure whatever you're imagining is far more exciting than the truth of it. Hmm. I guess I'll let him be vague. I see. Besides, do you really care where I got it? I wonder if I actually did keep bugging him if it would change the entire story, because this is like very early on. Anyway. Well, no. Well, you have a point. I thought so. I'm wondering if now that I've played this once, I'm wondering if just this tiny little decision at the beginning would have changed the entire game. Interesting. We'll see. Alright. So do we have a deal? Rylan wanted to trade his mystery pouch of spice for a few of the ramps ramps? I don't even know what that is supposed to be. I'd gathered in my pack. It was an unusual opportunity. When I think of ramps, I think of a slanted piece of floor. A ramp. But, okay, whatever. Apparently there's something you can gather. I don't know. Anyway. But I had no room for frivolousness. Everything we forged was accounted for, and everything we lost an empty belly. And there's Rylan to consider, of course. He's an entirely chaotic element of his own, a sailor, charming enough now, and while I've never seen him do anything suspicious, his idea of haggling is probably steal or kill. Guess I'll agree to the trade. Rylan, you have a deal. Wonderful. Rylan turned to leave. It's like, I'm tempted to pick different decisions, but also I'm kind of scared too. Ugh. I think the first time I picked, I wanted to ask for Stories of the Seas. But I guess we'll risk it and make a different decision. I could completely change the story and not know what the hell I'm doing, am I? But anyway, I wanted to see if he had more to trade. Rylan? Oh, Nocturna, don't be greedy. But Rylan, you come so rarely. You're the only foreigners we ever see. You must have all sorts of things. Personally, I don't have much. I'll do you this, though. Tomorrow I'll try to convince Tiernan to pay you and your aunt a visit. He could probably show you some things. Tiernan, have I ever met? Likely not. I've fallen behind, Nocturna, until we meet again. Okay. Let's see if that changes the entire story. Because I didn't ask him for stories about the sea. And Vanya? No one answered back. Our hut was humble, though I understood this only in the way that I understood elsewhere people kept massive fields with servants and livestock. I still can't get a handle on what exactly the time period is here. Because it doesn't seem truly medieval, but it doesn't really seem modern either. It does take place in a different world, so to speak, than just Earth. But yeah, I can't quite pinpoint the time period. But anyway. But elsewhere was elsewhere. Here in Edric, our hut was something to be proud of. No reason to feel shame or envy. Aunt Vanya was, in fact, very proud of our hut. But looking at it, the only thing I could see was the fence in need of mending. It had been threatening to give way for weeks, though nothing new. It had been in one state of disrepair or another since I was a child. Tried to fix it for the 232nd time. I looked about for something heavy and found a rock. There was a soft ruffling leaves from somewhere behind me. Oh no. Oh no. What are you doing? Says Vanya. Where were you? I wasn't doing anything yet. I just got home. Where were you? I was foraging in the east by the burned wood. Why are you home so early? I had a lucky day. Shara took all the ramps bright and early. Yeah, well then let's see if your luck holds. Switch packs with me and finish foraging. What? That's not... Fair? Save your breath. I have business in the village tonight, and my back is already sore. Hello, Drax. I know that you know a little bit about this game. I think you made a comment or something on one of the posts I made about it. But hi, welcome. No, I didn't give up on DOS. It's just that I don't usually stream on Fridays, and it's going to be a short stream today anyway. So I figured I'd do something completely different. Plus, I've been awake since 3 a.m., so I don't think I can handle anything that requires any more than knowing how to read. Okay, so, and that's debatable sometimes. Okay. But yeah, I just figured I'd do something different. I don't usually stream on Fridays anyway, so why not be different since a Friday stream is different in and of itself. But yeah, I'm still deciding next week if I should continue DOS or start Dragon Age Origins, which is technically older than DOS. I'm having trouble deciding because if I'm going by the release date thing, Dragon Age should technically be before DOS, but we'll see. We'll see what I think on Monday. I still got to figure out the whole thing with my other little story and what's going on there. Now that I have to follow a walkthrough to do it, apparently. But anyway, anyway, on to this. DOS 3 times. Yeah. The problem I'm having also is because I'm tempted to keep watching the playthroughs, but I don't want to spoil myself because I found a playthrough of DOS and I found one of Dragon Age, both. And I watched the beginning of each one, and I don't want to spoil myself, but I kind of want to keep watching them. But we'll see. We'll see what happens, because I usually only watch stuff when I'm eating anyway. That's the only time I ever watch anything is when I'm eating. So, the rest of the time, I'm playing a game. You know the feeling. All right, let's get back to this. All right. What business do you have in the village? Business, what do you... I guess I don't have to actually read those. Business, what do you possibly want in the village? You hate going into the village. We do things we hate when they're necessary, don't we? What are you going to do? I don't have time to chat, Nocturna. Neither do you. Not with a whole forest to forage. How dare you send me into the forest? Who knows what strange and mysterious and really, really hot men I might eat out here. She just has no concern. Alright, anyway... I mean, what? Okay. I mean, what? Nothing. Nothing. Alright, anyway. So I'm supposed to go forage in the forest. See what I can forage for. We'll see. Here we go. Off to the forest. All by our lonesome. Oh my. Alright. So far, the foraging was uneventful. I had my sickle, some mostly empty packs, and a few unimpressive roots that probably should have stayed in the ground a couple more weeks. The forest was warm today, and the warmth felt nice against my skin. I had a right to complain about the added foraging, but if I was being honest, the solitude was nice enough that I was enjoying myself. But I knew the burned forest well. There was little I would find worth foraging today. Guess we'll go with explore. Though I know where the woods kept its berries and roots, and though I had explored what seemed to be every tree and every rock since I was young, I also knew the forest could never be fully explored. The sun was falling. It was time to go home. What was that? What was what? I'm not going to try to climb the tree. I'm not quite that athletic. Try to knock it down with a rock. And missed. Ah, hi! Who's there? Yes, who indeed? Who come back, whoever you are. Yeah, who's there? No one answered. I was sure I'd seen someone. I ran home. Ay, ay, ay. When I made it home, I found Vanya gone. For once, I missed her terribly. It's not as though her hut offered much safety, not from people. Foreigners did not come to Edric or Edric. I guess it's Edric, probably. Edric, I guess. Vanya. Okay. So, Nocturna. Aunt Vanya. Oh, jeez. DOS has a slow start, but getting stuff done in town will level you as well as getting Medora's awesome great tank. And then you can get some skill books, and you'll be able to explore the western area. But yeah, follow the main quest and side quests in the town first. Slow start, but worth it. Story rolls faster after a while. Yeah, it's not that it's going that slow. I mean, I don't mind the whole talking to everybody thing. I don't know. I'm trying to decide which to do, that one or Dragon Age, because if I stick to my oldest game's first thing, Dragon Age is technically before that game, so that's why I'm debating on whether or not to switch it up next week, but we'll see, because I only got a couple weeks left to stream before summer starts, and then I'll be streaming sporadically, yeah. Yeah, I watched the very beginning of a Dragon Age playthrough, and I'm like, wow, you can bang everybody within the first 3 minutes of this game. That's all I've learned so far. But anyway... Aunt Vanya! What's gotten into you? There is someone in the woods. Was there? A person. A man, I think. Dark clothes. Aren't those the best kind? Speaking personally, every item of clothing I own is black, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I mean, there's a reason Nocturna has been my screen name for a very long time. But anyway... I don't know. The girl I was watching said that the only mod she put in was one to make the text size bigger or something, and a couple bug fixes or something. I don't know. But I've only watched like the first half hour or so of that game anyway. But anyhow, okay. Alright, so there was a person, a man, I think, dark clothes. A man in dark clothes? Perhaps it was Borthus. No, I called out and he didn't respond. No longer alone, I began to feel a bit calmer. Oh my god, the dogs. The dogs. Shut up, dogs. Alright. I was actually very curious. If it was a stranger, where might he have come from and why? Except for Rylan and his crew. Ah, the pirates are in Edric. Then that's probably what you saw. A pirate. But he didn't look like a sailor. Oh, God. Dogs are giving me a rough time. Well, shut up. But see, I always have to worry, because when the dogs start barking, I'm like, great, are people home early again? So I always got to, like, pay attention to when they start barking. So I'm like, oh, jeez, are they home? Alright, anyway. So he didn't look like a sailor. Pirate. And what does a sailor look like, pray tell? Well, alright, I suppose that makes as much sense as anything. But in that case, a pirate was stalking me out in the woods and hid when I spotted him. ... My aunt handed me a warm cup. God, here we go. And now the story truly starts. Okay, you'll see what I mean. Okay. Here. It smells sweet. Well, don't get used to it. The sweetness lasted only a moment once on the tongue. The drink had an aftertaste that was quite bitter. Not exactly unpleasant, but strange. I found myself lost in an effort to identify the taste. After I'd drunk it all, I finally asked, "What did you put in it?" "Some of that spice." "Some what?" "Ryland spice? You just put it in my drink." "Smelled like it would be good for it. You seem to have agreed, drank it all without complaint." Piglet. I really should be saving more. Normally I save every time there's a choice. I really should be saving more. Well, there wasn't a choice here, so we'll just save over that, I guess. Alright. But I was going to... A hot drink always calmed me down. This is the thanks I get. Unbelievable. A stalker, an aunt who puts unidentified spice in my drinks without telling me, and an indefensible hut. I went to bed in a foul mood. Jeez. I fell asleep quickly. What? I've never fallen asleep quickly in my life. That's it. This is a completely unbelievable story. saying that I fell asleep quickly. That's it. Immersion gone. I fell asleep quickly. Quicker than usual. Well, anything less than 4 hours is quicker than usual for me. So, yes. Okay. Ah! Where is it? Unfortunately, I didn't wake gently. You going mad at me, girl? ... Perhaps. Well, it's certainly possible. Jeez. Where is what? Huh? She stayed silent for a moment. I don't know, you're the one who said it. I suppose I was dreaming. Everything's certainly been strange lately. Wonder what I was dreaming. I don't usually talk in my sleep, do I? Do you think that if you did, you'd still have a cot next to mine? My loving aunt. Well, everyone has a weird night of sleep from time to time. I'll be gone then. Get your work done, Nocturna. You're leaving. Yeah? Not much choice. Starving is the worst kind of death. She left promptly, gone before I was even fully awake. I stared after her for a few moments as I realized I need to go back into the forest myself. She was right. Starving is the worst kind of death. And if you don't forage today, you don't eat tomorrow. Besides, I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little curious. Yes, for those of you just joining, I have done one playthrough of this, but I'm going to try to go a different path this time. But I'm kind of scared because I know, minor spoiler, it is possible to die in this game. So I'm a little worried. I don't want to pick all the exact same choices, although it might be the safe thing to do, because I did make it to the end eventually. I just had to look at walkthrough for one part where I died. But yeah, I'm gonna try to make different choices, or at least the main thing I'm gonna try to go different on. But we'll see, because I always want to fall back to, I don't know what's gonna happen if I pick that. Pirate prawn, a pirate fish. Okay, the woods seems cold and unfamiliar. All sorts of wrong. I couldn't explain why it felt this way. Birds made their noises, and I hadn't seen anything unusual. I really need to start saving more. Yeah, also when you save, you get a little preview of what this section of the game's called. This section of the game's called Harbinger, apparently. There is such a delay. Let me go ahead and reload. So if anybody says anything in the next 5 seconds, I probably won't see it, because I'm going to reload my stream, because there's a really big delay on my end. So give me 1 second. 1 second. Alright. I am back. 5 seconds. Yes, I can. If anybody said anything between the prawn and the 5 seconds, I missed it because I was reloading. Alright, anyway. So, couldn't explain why it felt this way. Birds made their noises and I hadn't seen anything usual. Okay. I was certain it wasn't very cold, but still a chill stuck to my bones. Each step forward I took, I regretted. I considered time and time again turning back, yet I continued forward. I was already trapped. Drink, of course. Jeez. Already in the throes of fate. Hello, sir. Hi. 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 Hello. Hi. Okay. So, he says, where is it? Which is, I believe, the same thing I said when I woke up. Where is it? Hey, everybody, this is La Ciaga. Yeah, this is La Ciaga. Have you guys met? No. Have you seen this boy? Why the hell would I kill him? This man's already hot enough. He doesn't need any more fire. Okay, anyway. Hi, yeah, so La Ciaga here. Hello, dear sir. He wants to know where it is. Whatever it is, but he wants to know where it is. And then the source of my unease finally revealed itself to me. The stranger waited only a moment before repeating his question. Where is the Kuthental? I couldn't do anything more than stare. I can't blame you, dear. Okay, anyway. I am a redhead, but, you know, anyway. This is as red as it gets in this game. Where is it? He's very, very, very personable, this man. Oh, he's moving closer. The man, was it a man? Stepped forward with his hand outstretched as though making to grab me. No, he definitely wasn't human. He didn't move like a human would. What do we mean by attack exactly? Just asking. Anyway, speak? I guess I'll speak. Try to speak. I stilled myself and forced out some words. Guess we'll try diplomacy, because I'm sure he'll really respond to that. He seems such the diplomatic. Alright, yeah, I'll try to be diplomatic. There's no reason we can't both leave from here peacefully. Peacefully. He said it as though we had two different ideas on what the word meant. This is La Ciaga, everybody. This is La Ciaga. But anyway, I mean, I'm just saying because I read his name, you know. But, yeah. I doubt this can end peacefully for you, human. Well, I'm willing to try if you are. The legacy of my people is not one of peace. That you're still breathing ought to spring all sorts of questions and worries in your mind. Or do you already know why I'm here? Is there a list that I can choose from? I don't know why you're here at all. Do you know what I am? Again, I have a few words come to mind. I mean, this is La Ciaga, everybody. He's interesting. Okay, yeah, so what do you mean, as in not human? Had you thought your kind to be alone? I don't remember if I got that middle choice before. But I guess we'll go with, you're the stranger who's been following me. Why have you been following me? For how long? Since you got the Kuthental. I don't know what your Kuthental is. So you say. Does that mean you're a sailor? Sailor. No, you think I'm one of the pirates. I appear to have offended him. I've offended him, oh no. I don't know what a Kuthental is. I wasn't sure how much longer his patience would hold, but I didn't think it would last much longer. Oh my goodness. Calling it by another name. A small black pouch decorated in ancient Gallian glyphs containing a precious marrow. A pouch? The spice I got from Rylan was in a pouch that looked a lot like what he described. Not that I knew what Gallian glyphs looked like, but if I had to take a guess, I guess we'll go with the pouch of spice from the pirate. Are you talking about the spice Rylan gave to me? And again, I really need to be saving more. Yeah, are you talking about the spice Rylan gave to me? Spice. Oh, you didn't really think. Where is it? I don't understand. I'll make it simple, human. All I want is the Kuthental. I'm running out of time, and so are you. You're so forceful. God. Alright, anyway. The Kuthental belongs to me. You have no means to challenge this, and you have no right to. So your options, lucky as you are to even have them, give me the Kuthental or die. Such a sweet talker, isn't he, though? I know. Everybody's like, He's such a jerk. Why are you even caring? But, you know, have you seen him? Have you seen him? But anyway, so, he's very, very, very friendly when you first meet him. Very friendly. Okay. Insufficient aggression. Oh, I really don't remember what I picked here before. Yeah, normally I save every time I get to a choice. I should really be doing that, but there's a lot more choices in this than the other one I was playing. And what makes it yours? That means it belongs to you? The Kuthatal belongs to Galleons. You are not a Galleon. I am. It is simple. You're a Galleon? Galleon? Yes. And the Kuthatal is mine. Now give me the Kuthatal or show me where you've hid it. I knew little of Galleons and nothing helpful. I'd already deduced this man was far more dangerous than anyone else I knew, and I was out of options. Fine, but it isn't with me. Waving his arm, he seemed to be directing me toward home. Was he serious? Guess we'll start walking. Have a nice little walk through the forest with the haughty boy. I mean, this very, very unfriendly man. Yeah, so start walking. With only brief hesitation, I began walking toward the hut. I waited outside while the elf went into the hut. I briefly entertained the idea of running, but... Along the way, I had noticed the elf's head turn just slightly from noise to noise. Every bird that chirped, every branch that broke, he observed. I'd also noticed that as we walked, while my feet crunched and cracked whatever was underfoot, the ground beneath his feet was nearly silent. So, as I said, I'm not really quite sure on the time period or the world lore and all, because it is a made-up world, obviously. But from this, you get the impression that she knows that Galleons are elves, because she's referring to him now as the elf. So she at least knows of elves and what they are and what they're called. So she does know that he's an elf. So she is in a world where elves are a known thing, and she does know what they are, even if she's never, like, been around them or met them. So she does have knowledge of them, at least. So it's kind of that kind of world, I guess. If I were to try running away, I don't think I'd get far. I had never been in a situation like this. I'd heard about the way people were outside the village. I'd heard that they were cruel and forceful, irreverent, violent. I'd heard that they'd steal or hurt on a whim. Life was not forgiving here, nor was Vanya, but this was a different feeling. I'd never experienced it, and I'd never met anyone who wasn't human before. Yet here, the first one I meet was now plundering my home for something he claims to belong to him. And how had he gotten here unseen? Perhaps he had stowed away with the pirates. A stowaway, a large elf among the Lulari pirates? Even I knew that the Lulari were known for being bigots. There was a pounding in my ear. The impulse to act was increasing with each beat of my heart. I realized that this might have been, found a typo, might have been my last chance to change my fortune. Guess we'll go with look inside the hut. Bolstering my nerve, I crept toward the hut, intent on peeking inside the opening. I knew better than to think I'd be able to come up on the elf unnoticed, but I stepped lightly. When I peered inside, I found an elf staring back at me. It was half expected, but still unnerving. Human? Did you find what you were looking for? He seemed angry, growing increasingly irritated by the second. He was already pretty irritated. Is there a problem? His glare grew harsher still. I noticed that he had found the pouch of spice, yet he didn't seem pleased. He stepped closer till he and I were standing on either side of the hut's threshold. The tension grew as his gaze bored into me, searching for something. Okay. Let's see. Carefully increase the distance. I inched backwards ever so slightly, attempting to increase the distance between us as best I could. It was a slow, terrifying little dance. What's happened? The Kuthental is empty. I watched as he turned the pouch inside out and shook it in a frustrated display. That would mean Vanya used it all. I hadn't even begun to think of the implications behind consuming some of whatever this elf was after. A part of me had been hoping Vanya hadn't actually put the spice Kuthental in my drink. What have you done with it? The elf's demand was intense and violent. I stared back in horror. How was I going to explain that I drank? Answer! I watched as the elf dropped the pouch into a pocket in his coat, only to then notice he had simultaneously drawn a small dagger from his hip. This sounds a lot like my meeting with a certain other very pale elf in another game. Doesn't it, though? Doesn't it? Oh, jeez. Lost somebody already. They're like, she's crazy. She should be trying to kill this guy. But have you seen him? Have you seen him? But anyway. Okay. Get away from my girl. I was surprised by my aunt, but the elf's gaze remained focused on me. The old woman. What's going on? You two have done something with the Kuthental. The what? The Kuthental, in a pouch, black... The spice? It's not spice! I will give you guys... What fire? Why are we using fire? But I will give you guys a very minor spoiler. Very minor. In the path I took before, even though this is your meeting with La Ciaga, I think that he's actually got some of the funniest bits later. The things he says. And this is the first example. I'm getting all flustered about us calling it spice. But yeah, anyway. Okay. It is precious, rare, sacred marrow, and it belongs to my people. Well, it's gone. The elf's temper boiled over. His face grew just slightly red with frustration. I had the sense to take a step back. Why am I using fire, Heim? Have you not seen this man? What am I using fire for? But the elf grabbed me and held the dagger to my throat. Gone. Gone where? I tried to think clearly. If I was clever. She drank it. Drank it? Jeez. Oh, La Ciaga. I just... How, like... his reactions just, they crack me up. He's just like, he's so... just... outraged. But it's funny. I don't know. I guess it's just me. I just find it really hilarious how pissed he gets. Like, ah! Oh my god. I love him. But anyway. Vanya. I told you, we thought it was spice. I clamped my eyes shut, prepared for the worst. Oh, jeez. Doing well so far, ain't we? But nothing happened. Alright. The elf had taken a step back from me and was staring at me in a curious way. He's staring at me. Oh dear. Well, that's it then. Yes, I suppose so. What? He has surrendered. Oh no. He's such a... Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, that was like when I first saw that. I'm like, what? he just... Oh, I suppose so. What? Exactly. Though she hit it well, I could tell that Vanya was surprised that the elf had agreed. Exactly. So much for history and its offerings. I couldn't believe the elf was so easily satisfied. Wait, now what now? Huh? He'd been so obsessed with the Kuthental, and to find out it was gone, that I drank it, and then to be... We're leaving. We? You're not taking the girl anywhere. Oh, I am. She drank the Kuthental. The Kuthental belongs to us. She belongs to us. What now? Okay. What now? asinine logic. If you didn't want the spice eaten, you shouldn't have kept it. You should have kept it closer to home. It was not. He's just so fun. He waved his hand. You don't have a choice in this. If you didn't want to be subject to the demands of your betters, you would have made yourself stronger. Or perhaps you would have avoided fumbling into history that doesn't belong to you. But how do you even know we told the truth? You're ready to just abandon... I think it makes as much sense as anything in this deplorable village. You didn't smuggle it anywhere, I would have seen. I searched that hut of yours through and through. You... Don't get in my way. I could tell Vanya wasn't going to back down easily. She seemed calm, but I knew her better than that. I also knew that my aunt was unlikely to achieve anything beyond getting herself hurt. Guess we'll go with, it's alright. Yes. And yeah, it's alright. The elf wants to drag you off to his cave. I'll be alright. We need to go, now. Alright, elf, I'll go with you. I know. Okay. Oh, jeez. But yeah, seriously. I mean, it's not like we could fight him anyway. But anyhow. He wasted no time leading me away. I looked back at Vanya and stared at her for as long as I could. Walking through the forest with the elf at my heel felt like a death march. He hadn't said a word since we began walking. I didn't choose to break the silence myself either. I don't have any power or fire. Oh, jeez. The elf followed from a slight distance, only stepping forward to nudge me in a different direction every now and then. I could tell that we weren't headed into the village, but that we were headed toward the coast. Where's Gallia? Where is Gallia? East of here. Gallia is an island. An island? Does that mean you came here by ship? You'll see soon enough. This way. This time, instead of nudging me in a new direction, the elf had moved ahead through the trees and called for me to follow. I stopped walking and stared at where the elf had disappeared. I sent a look over my shoulder and began to consider. What was that? There was a strange noise nearby. And then, for only a moment, I saw the shape of another figure darting through the trees. Were there more? Yes. I wonder if there's more. Human! The fear that whoever else was out there might be worse than the elf I already had pushed me forward. Elf? He didn't answer, but he was moving fast and I was losing sight of him. Where are we going? To the Bastion. It looks like we've made it just in time after all. What is the Bastion? A ship. And you expect me to be on that ship. You will be on that ship. Oh, what's wrong, Heim? Don't you like Lastiaga? He's very friendly. He's very friendly. Oh, my. All right. You have to give me more information. You can't just abduct me without telling me anything. Where I'm going, why, to who, for how long? Aw, you don't like Lastiaga. But like I said, he's just such a people person. But seriously, what do you think would have happened if I tried to fight him? Remember, I did say you could die in this game. Okay. Oh, jeez. Oh my god, these dogs. They will not shut up. He glanced at me, hesitating for only a moment. Strangely, it seems I can just abduct you without telling you anything. I'm pretty sure he'll catch up to me. There's like one hut on the island. And I didn't see that. Well, I guess there was one option to attack him, but, you know, as I said, you can die in this game. Besides, if somebody this hot was trying to, like, abduct me, I'd at least try to make friends with them and be like, can't we just do this a different way? But you have to tell me something. I don't have to tell you anything, human. This is your fault, you realize. And how? You drank the Kuthental. I tried to piece together what little information I had. I tried to remember any time anyone had ever referenced Gallia in my past, but I couldn't remember anything. When the coast appeared, I immediately spotted the ship. It wasn't the Serpentine, which I had once thought to be the largest ship in the world. Indeed, this ship was somehow much larger. On the beach not far from us, there were dozens of elves just as pale, sullen-faced, and dark-clad as the one who had found me. Hellboys in dark clothes. Not like I have a weakness for them or anything. Okay. Anyway. You and I made good time. I thought we were going to be late. The elf sounded pleased, in a very bored sort of way. Stay put. You'll board shortly. Leave a basket or have some children or whatever it is you humans do. Like I said, some of the funniest things are from Laciaga here. Oh, jeez. I watched the elves for a little while, but the longer I did, the more surreal it all became. I tried to imagine where we were in relation to the village, how far north it must have been, that no one would have seen the elves' massive ship. Surely someone in the village must have seen one of these elves. And what were they doing here? The elves were everywhere, an infestation that had gone completely unnoticed. Okay, the dogs are seriously barking non-stop, so give me a second to try to figure out if people are actually home or what. So give me a moment. Nope, the dogs are just being the most annoying creatures on the planet, as usual. Okay, anyway, so, about to get on a ship. I was sitting on the beach somewhere north of the village that I'd lived in my whole life, but I was surrounded by strange beings, and they were threatening to take me away to their strange land. Thoughts kept clouding my mind. The marrow I'd consumed, I didn't feel sick, only weary, but if all the elves were here for the thing I drank, had I poisoned myself? As the sun set, my worries began to fade. Though it lasted for only a few moments between the strange weariness and the rosy sky, I felt comforted, pacified. The last comfort before the slaughter, the last pulse of warmth before the freeze. Human, it's Nocturna. We're leaving. Perhaps the calm I felt scrounged up a desire for dignity because I realized I wanted to call my captor by his name. I wouldn't be abducted and tormented by a man whose name I didn't even know. What is your name? Why do you want to know? Are you hoping to be friends? I told you some of the funniest stuff is Laziel. Just because of how he is, everything he says, it seems that much funnier because it's just like, he makes these comments that are actually funny when it seems like he's completely unaware of the fact that they are funny. But anyway, I would like to know the name of the elf who brought me here. Laciaga Darhal, first scout of the Gallian forces. I was a little surprised he told me his name, and in a bizarre way, I was surprised he even had one. This all felt a bit too much like a dream. Get moving, human. Move quickly. My name is Nocturna. I'm not the one who asked for introductions. Wondering who will remember you? Oh, then if we call each other whatever we please, I'll call you Lacey. Ah, fine then, Lacey. Love it. Love it. It's Lacey, everybody. It's the name just fits him, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Fine then, Lacey. Jeez. Ah, yep, he seems like such a Lacey, doesn't he? Excuse me? I've always liked lace. I've only seen it twice before. The shepherd's wife has a lace shirt. It's so pretty and delicate. Do you have any idea how easily I could kill you? So you keep saying. Oh, gosh. Okay. Is there going to be words, or do I have to actually hit something? I guess I have to hit something. Okay. No. All right. Yeah, I could keep going down to lower saves, but that's fine. I might as well have been walking into another world. Aboard the galleon ship, I got a few odd looks from the elves. They were all as pale as Lacey. All wore dark armor, and they all seemed to have dark hair. Their looks never lingered. For whatever anomaly I was, I must not have been that remarkable. They moved with purpose, diligently, efficiently, unwilling to be distracted. Lacey had followed me onto the deck, staying behind me at an increasing distance. I even lost sight of him in between the crowds on occasion, but I suppose he wasn't concerned. Where was I going to go? I tried to move out of the elves' way as best I could, but I still seemed to be making something of an obstruction. So I kept still, and the elves moved around me. There you are, La Ciaga. I heard the name of my escort, and I looked at the woman who spoke it. She was marching towards me. Commander. I hadn't realized Lacey had caught up to me until I heard his voice over my shoulder. Your little side venture successful, I take it. If not... She gave me a long, curious look. Then I'll demand a smuggling fee. There are proper channels if you really insist on taking your lovers home. Ah! Wow, we're already lovers. Interesting. I must have missed that part. Oh, that's funny that she just assumes that. Mm-hmm. Oh, my. She is what Dulier wants. He's always been a bit of an odd one, hasn't he? All right, why not? Welcome to the Bastion, human. It seemed I had to get used to being called human. Oh, see, it is funny, guys. It's funny. Despite the insanity, it's funny. Oh, my. I'm Commander Calipoa Millerose. Commander? Does that mean you're in charge of all this? The gigantic ship, the masses of black-clad elves, the mysterious agenda somehow involving me? Oh, no. No, I'm in charge of part of this. I'm also in charge of him. She motions at Lacey, sounding ever so slightly smug. I felt a surge of optimism. I honestly don't remember what I picked here. I think I picked, then fix this. If you're his master, then you can help. Let me go and punish him. He was watching me, stalking me, and then he forced me to come here. He did he? Well, yes. I came along to save my aunt. Ah, well, you won't be pleased to hear this, but I'm actually relieved. He's not the nicest man. You're not going to do anything. I can't. What good is being commander, then? But a word of advice, if the Onyx Chandler wants you in his clutches, he'll find a way to have you. If you're clever, you'll figure out how to keep him from wanting you. She sighed, seeming to struggle with something. I really am busy, despite appearances. Let me think. What can I... Perfect. Vaden. Or Vadine. Vadine. I don't know. I need a voiceover. Tell me how to pronounce these weird elf names. Vadine. Vadane. I don't know. Is it Vadine? Vadane? What do we think? Yeah. So I guess we'll go with Vadane. Waiting? Waiting? How do you get waiting out of that? I don't... Is it a Swedish name? I thought it was an elf name. Waiting? I don't see how. I guess I'll go Vidane? I don't know. Vidane. Vidane. I guess we'll go with that for now. I don't know. Vidane. The commander seized the attention of another elf, who immediately stopped what he was doing and walked towards us. He sent a look at the commander, and then his gaze fell on me. Hello, dear. Oh my. They're piling up. Who's this? A human. Yes, Commander, I noticed, but... She's for the Onyx Chandler, and no, I don't know what he wants with her. No, this is him, Lacey. She's for the Onyx Chandler, and no, I don't know what he wants with her. They stared at each other in silence for a long few seconds, tension becoming obvious. That was when I realized the ship had begun to move. It was the strangest sensation, and it threw my balance just enough that I had to crouch down to steady myself. Are you alright? He seems a little nicer than Lacey. Calipoa, or whatever her name is, seems okay as well. Ah, and there he goes. Far too easy. Come with me, Lastiaga. You have some things to explain. Calipoa and Lacey left immediately, leaving me with the new elf. He held out his hand, offering it to help me with my balance. I don't know. It's like, if there was a quick save button, it would be easier than going in and doing this all the time. But knowing how easy it is to mess things up, I'm very, very save-aholic-y, as if I wasn't before, right? Guess we'll take his hand. I hesitated, and then I reached out to take his hand. He held my hand tightly, helping me to steady myself. All of these elves were deceptively strong, it seemed. After I had regained my balance, he let my hand go. First time on a ship? Yes. Wasn't that obvious? Was it common to have spent time on a ship? No one I knew had ever been on a ship, not one like this. Again, I don't remember what I picked. It was 1 or 3. Guess we'll go with... There have been a lot of new things happening to me lately. I don't know if finding myself aboard a ship like this is any stranger than meeting hordes of Moony elves. Moony? A lot of people think we're nocturnal. You don't say. Okay. But you're not? Not any more than anyone else. I could tell he was very curious about why I was here, and he was looking for a way to ask. If you don't mind, how did you end up... Guess we'll tell him. Lacey tracked me down for the Onyx Chandler, evidently. I drank something that he thinks is his property, and thus I am now his property myself. You what? You what? What? You what? What? That's ridiculous. Galleons don't take possession of people. That's slavery. What does he think he's doing? He can't just afford himself exceptions. So now he's all flustered too. I watched the elf as he jumped from one outrage to the next, but it only lasted a moment before he regained his composure. Are you hurt? Did he hurt you? Did he force you to come aboard? He can't force you to come aboard. Julia has no official standing, no status, no command. Yes, he made me. He said I had no choice, and I didn't feel like he was lying. I'm so sorry. The elf was apologizing? I was suspicious, a little caught off guard. Lastiaga isn't someone I'd wish was my worst enemy. Oh, Vidane. He is adorable. He is adorable. Oh, jeez. At least he's hot as hell, but Vidane here is adorable. Okay. Such a tough choice. Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna go about this this time, because last time I deliberately picked a different one each time just so I could get to know each of the characters. And then I just happened to be with a certain one when a certain event happened, and so I ended up picking them for the final choice. But still, it's just, it's tough. It's tough. You like him better than Lacey. Yes, I think everybody, you're kind of supposed to like him better than Lacey. Lacey does not exactly try to make himself popular. But Lacey is very, very hot. I mean, but Dane's pretty hot here, too. They're all freaking hot. It's a little annoying. Alright, anyway. He thinks that if someone is defenseless, they're simply at the mercy of people who are stronger, so he pushes people who can't stop him. Then I should learn to defend myself. When I first ordered her business is to learn the most effective and diverse ways to kill elves. I'm slightly uncomfortable. See, it's like, actually, they all have things I like about them. All the characters. All the 5 main characters that you can choose between. They all have things I like about them. So, and yes, even though Lacey is very mean at first, he's also probably the funniest one. And the hottest one. Actually, they're all very hot. It was a very, very tough decision. Okay. Slightly uncomfortable, is what he said. Good. At least you were warned. Oh, I haven't. My name is Vidane Millerose. What's your name? Nocturna? Hadn't I heard Millerose before? Well, truth be told, retaining names was currently a low priority. But I think that was the commander's surname as well. Were they related? Well met, Nocturna. I'll show you to a hammock if you like. It's very crowded, but at least you'll only be among women. Women are hardly any more safe than men. You say that as if I should be reassured. Huh, not in the slightest. He showed me to the ship's hold and gave me simple directions to find a row of hammocks. Yes, the Dane is probably the sweetest one, in my opinion, out of all the characters that you have to choose between. But yeah, they all have things I like about them. Okay. The ship's innards weren't anything like I'd have imagined. It was so dim and almost impossible to see anything. Guess I should find another save here. You can find it now, can't you? I really shouldn't go any further. Privacy and all. If you need anything, I have to get back to duty, but truly... Well, yeah. Wait till you meet all 5 of them. Okay. It's a very, very tough decision. Yeah, that's why I was going through. Like I said, every time I had to choose between the 5 guys, I would pick a different one just so I'd get to know each one a little bit. And it was a really hard decision. So I ended up just going with whoever was with me when a certain event happened, because that leads to something else, etc., etc. But yeah, it was really hard. I mean, really, really, really difficult to decide between the 5 guys. Well, one I wasn't really that interested in out of the 5, but I mean, they were all pretty cool. Car test drive before buying. Well, I mean, I guess that's why you can replay it, right? Because this is my second playthrough, and I liked the ending I got in the first playthrough. That was fine. But I figure I'm gonna obviously go with somebody else this time, since I've already seen that ending. But, yeah. Alright, so... This is foreboding. It's so dark in here, and so... Galleon decorating. I believe we see better in the gloom than your people do. Night vision, dark vision, as they call it in BG3. You must, it's all just a haze. Perhaps your eyes will adjust. More than my eyes are going to need to adjust. So tell me more about yourself. Well, tell me about yourself then. Me? Well, I'm a scout in the forces, 1st Division. Is that like what Lacey is? Yes, exactly what La Ciaga is. Do you know the commander? The commander. Oh yes, she and I are cousins. We were born within weeks of each other. We're close. You'll find a lot of my family speckled across the chain of command. Yes. 3 of your choices have the same last name. His family is everywhere. Alright. Anyway. Does that mean you're important? Oh, no, not at all. So what about Lacey? You knew Lacey was involved with my arrival? I saw the 2 of you arrive, yes. You noticed me come aboard then. Now, is that because you pay close attention to everything Lacey does, or is it because well, you don't look like you're a part of the forces, so He looks a little caught off guard. Alright, can you tell me more about Gallia? Your people. I have no idea where I'm going. He gave a heavy sigh. I can't tell you that Gallia is a grim place, and that we don't welcome outsiders. I'm afraid things will be very... I can tell you that Gallia is a grim place, and that we don't welcome outsiders. I'm afraid things will be very difficult for you. That's not... Can you tell me something a bit more specific? Gallia is a small island. We live in one primary city with a very dense population, completely encircled by a fortress wall. We're known for our forces, an army that enlists more than 2/3 of our population. We are essentially mercenaries, though be mindful who you repeat that to. Most Gallians don't appreciate the term. Noted. I wish I could think of how to prepare you. Guess I don't need anything. Well, I mean, that's up for debate, but I understand. Take care. Left alone for the first time since morning, I stared down the narrow pathway before me. I'm losing my ability to read, folks. Okay. Well, what I could see of it. It seemed far less busy down here, but occasionally I'd feel the movements of others around me. I eventually found the chamber Vadane had told me about. I was starting to see better. Perhaps my eyes had been adjusting after all. It didn't help that Gallians seemed intent on keeping everything in shades of black. Hey, that's the best color. What are you talking about, girl? Though it was early in the evening, all the hammocks I could see were filled. The sleeping elves were, as far as I could tell, all female. I scanned the hammocks for a while, searching for an empty one. It was difficult to tell from where I stood, but I thought that I spotted one in the 3rd row. There was also an awake elf who had been staring at me since I entered. Guess we'll ask the elf. Pardon me. The elf's brows flew up. She continued to stare, but she didn't say a word. I realized belatedly that this elf looked different from the others. Were it not for the ears, I'd have thought her human. Try again. Pardon me, my lady? The elf's silence continued. Perhaps she doesn't understand me. Oh, you can't understand me, can you? I sighed. I can understand you perfectly fine. Her unfamiliar accent was thick and her words a little awkward, but nevertheless she could understand me. Oh, how silly of me to assume you weren't just ignoring me. Are you a prisoner? No. I found myself answering out of reflex, even though I may well have been. Uh-huh. She doesn't sound like she believes me. I just wanted to find a hammock. I didn't want to step on any toes. The elf sighs. Who told you to come down here? Vadane Millerose? Then I suppose... Alright, fine. You can sleep in any of the unoccupied hammocks. Follow. I felt a little relieved as I followed the elf past the 1st row of hammocks. We moved past the 3rd, all the way to the back of the chamber. It's instinct on a ship to want to be near the exit. The farther back you are, the longer it takes to get out. Nice. By the way, in case you can't see it, if you're watching on a phone or whatever, her name is apparently Saffron Leha. Okay. Looking at you, I think it's in everyone's best interest that you stay secluded. And why is that? And why is that? You're not Galleon. Alright. You're not Galleon, and you're on a Galleon warship. You really need further explanation. Not keen on taking any more abuse after the day I'd had. I kept quiet. Besides, the realization I was on a warship threw my mind. If I'd been thinking about it, of course that's what this was. All these elves were soldiers. The elf motioned at one of the empty hammocks and took leave of me. Once she was gone, I climbed into the hammock and tried to burrow into it as deep as I could. It was surreal. I guess if I try to save after every choice, I'll be saving literally constantly. So I'll just save when there's like a transition-y thing or something. We'll see. We'll see. You know me and my saving. Like I was in the belly of a giant beast. I was left alone for the rest of the night. Those around me seemed to sleep soundly, as though theirs was a hard-earned slumber. I didn't seem to concern them. Come morning, I had gotten little sleep. Sounds familiar. I had spent the night lying still in my hammock, marveling at all the things I didn't know. I couldn't stop wondering about the Kuthantal and what it might do to me. The hopeful part of me had rendered the Kuthantal physically innocuous, if only because it had been a day and a half and I was still fine. But the other parts of me, the parts of me that also recognized my situation aboard a massive ship destined for a place I'd never been, filled with the people I'd never seen, would remember that there must be a reason for all this. There simply had to be a reason Lacey dragged me aboard, a reason he was sent to find the Kuthantal in the first place. If nothing else, I was tangled tightly in a web I could barely understand. Around the time the elves who had been sleeping when I first arrived were waking up, lying still with only my wanderings had become too much to bear. I quietly snuck out of my hammock and made my way back into the passageway. The hall was busier than it had been the evening prior. The majority of the elves were moving in one specific direction, deeper into the ship's hold. The jumbled sounds of the elves speaking to each other hit me with a realization their language was not my own. It shouldn't have come as a surprise, but it did. Perhaps it was because the elves I'd spoken to so far all knew my language, but now that I was giving it some thought, that was very strange. I don't think I want to go deeper into the ship, so I guess I'll go back up to the deck. I decided I didn't need or really want to know what all the elves were up to. Truthfully, heading deeper into the ship sounded like a terrible idea. So I made my way back to the deck. The sight of the ocean would make me feel less imprisoned. I had no true hope of escape. I could swim, but not that well. The deck was just as busy as it had been before. We were out at sea, and past the ship all around, all was blue. Edric was long gone. Guess this is sort of a transition-ish thing. The elves skittered across the deck like spiderlings and ignored me yet again. Whenever I got in their path, I tried to ignore them in return and focus my attention on the ocean, out of sight, out of mind. That's better. Out of sight, out of mind, indeed. I'd seen the ocean plenty of times before, of course, but it never seemed bigger than it did now. The whole world seemed bigger. Hello, sir. Identify yourself. The voice approached from the side, demanding, intense. I felt my body tense in response. Now. Words that might have been Lacey's a day before. I sized the man up as best I could. His hair was certainly not typical of these elves. I chastised myself for not keeping an eye out, as I'm sure I would have seen him coming. Guess I will comply here. Identify yourself? Nocturna. I was forced to come aboard the ship yesterday. You're from the human town. Yes. Why were you brought aboard? Do you usually need a reason? It seemed to me you all take whatever you want, and it's as simple as that. So you're implying you were taken because I have something you want? I waited for the elf to argue, to ask me what, but instead, who brought you aboard? A scout, Lacey. I see. Satisfied, the elf lowered his weapon and stepped away. That was all. I watched him leave with disbelief. It's like, oh, well, Lacey brought her. Fine. I noticed that some of the elves passing had been paying us some attention, though their expressions were mostly amused. Guess we'll stay up here. Whatever is so funny, the elves went back to ignoring me after the demanding elf took his leave. I took a deep breath and looked back out at the water. Lacey again. What are you doing? His hiss seized my spine. Though I'd only met him yesterday, I recognized the sound of him immediately. Lacey? Because I'll be smug. Here, I was worried you'd abandon me. On the contrary, I've been keeping a close eye on you. I don't get paid if you get lost. And where do you expect me to get lost? He waved at the ocean. Ah. We're far off the coast in deep ocean now. The closer we get to Gallia, the colder the water gets. The deeper the ocean, the more violent the things lurking beneath the water. I would be mindful. I couldn't help but wonder if he wanted me to try jumping into the water. Right, because if something were to happen to me, you wouldn't get paid. Exactly. Remember that I'm not above tying you to something down in the hold. Uh-huh. Okay, then. Did this just take a turn? All right. We'll pretend we can concentrate after that statement. Okay. Yeah. But then... oh my, exactly. But then you'd have to take care of me. Such a hassle. He rolled his eyes. See, even though Lacey's very, very, shall we say, acerbic, he is also quite funny. Oh, jeez. I noticed Imre speaking with you earlier. Imre? The elf with the sword? It wasn't a sword. The elf with the blade pointed at me? If something like that were to happen again, tell them you've been summoned by the Onyx Chandler. Or if you must, tell them to take it up with me. I don't know. Guess we'll go with I'd rather not. Why, to cut out your footwork? Or to avoid getting stabbed? Most of these elves ignore me just fine. It's your decision. If your thirst for spite extends to risking yourself, then by all means. Lacey stood still and watched me in silence for a few uncomfortable seconds. What does the Onyx Chandler want with the Kuthental? What does the Onyx Chandler want with me? With the Kuthental? I'm not completely sure, but the Kuthental is ancient. A lot of research and theory has been spent on the Kuthental, and what you so unceremoniously drank was the only physical Kuthental we've ever found. What is it? A marrow. Yes, but I don't know. Have you... Lacey's voice trailed off as his attention shifted to another elf who was approaching. Oh, hello. Hello, sir. Oh, my goodness gracious. This is Heron Melrose. And he says, you are a very strange woman. Lo and behold, another elf. Another very, very hot elf. Okay. Anyway. He was not wearing either of the uniforms I'd come to associate with scout or soldier. And though his curiosity was unnerving in context, he seemed less hostile than most of his kin. Certainly eons above the last stranger. I'm not the only strange one. You're a little strange yourself, no? Why aren't you wearing one of the uniforms? You certainly take things in stride. An admirable quality. Not one I expected from a human. I'm special. I guess we'll go with that. I'm special. You'll find I don't have much in common with my fellows. Certainly truer now than ever before. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed anything odd? Sensory changes, noises, feelings? Lasiaga's gaze turns to me with interest. Perhaps it was what he was going to ask me before. I will fish for information. Maybe? Can you be more specific? Do I need to be? Most people don't consider odd noises, sensory changes, or very unusual sensations to be at all mundane. Jeez. I'm not currently living my regular life. This I'll submit. How about colors you've never noticed in quite the same shade before, or noises you can't place? The eerie weight of an unseen, unnatural presence. Perhaps the feeling of shedding your skin. What? I suppose no. Heron. Oh, jeez. And another one. And another one. They're just multiplying. Okay. So we've met 4 of them now, right? Lacey, Heron, Vidane, and now Ernal here. Ernal. This is Ernal, this new boy right here. Full transparency, he's the one I actually ended up with in the first run because of him being the one I happened to be with when a certain event happened. But anyway, you're not supposed to be here, Heron. Yet another elf approach. This prompted a sigh from the first. This is what you call inconspicuous. And again, his last name's Millerose. This is what you call inconspicuous. You couldn't at least try to blend in? Calipoa gave me permission. Not to make an ass of yourself. Then the new elf seemed to finally realize I existed, and he seemed confused. What? ... What? Who are you? Why are you? Why am I? Who knows? If you thought I was charming, Madrelay, just wait until you get to know Ernal. My brother has the grace of an elephant. Okay, so Vidane is Calipoa's cousin. These two are brothers, and they all have the same last name, so... Why is this human aboard the Bastion, Heron? The Onyx Chandler. Dulier wants her? Get details from him. I'll have you know, I'm not thrilled about it either. Why? I'm sure he has a reason. Not that he needs one. You already have the one human trophy. She's not human. That doesn't matter. What does Dulier want with this human? I focused my attention on the first elf, Heron, who seemed to know something he wasn't telling. Unfortunately, his attention was focused on me in return. Both of us stayed silent, willing the other to speak first. And Ernal says, for the love of heart, this is not the time or the place. If neither of you care to explain, both of you need to get off the deck, especially you, Heron. You'll just keep attracting the curious up here. Guess we'll say I drank the Kuthental. I mean, they're all pretty much going to know anyway, I'm sure. I inhaled a deep breath. I drank a spice Lacey referred to as a marrow, the Kuthental, I knew it. His palpable excitement did little to comfort me. So what's going to happen to me? After consuming Kuthental? I'm surprised you're alive. What? So it is poison. It is poison after all. Somehow in my gut I knew it to be true. No, calm down. The fact remains you are alive. What does that mean? That's the truly fascinating question. I'm getting notifications. It's telling me to reset my notification settings. Why would it tell me that now? Alright, anyway. It lost whatever potency it had over the years. It never worked quite the way Julia thought it did. Both possible, yes. But you hope for something else, of course. Of course, the potential is... Excuse me, the explanation? I'm trying to explain. The explanation is that this is so unusual and unknown that no one knows what will happen. Not actually information, was it? I can't even tell you with complete certainty what the Kuthental is. It's all muddled up in fragmented history, lost, retold, obscured, guessed at. So much so that the likelihood is that what you ate was actually Kuthental. Okay, so much so that the likelihood that what you ate was actually Kuthental, that Kuthental actually exists, is slim. Yeah, for anybody who's watching on something they can't really read much on, I'm going to try to move the mouse over to the person that's talking, because I know that a lot of times there's a multiple person conversation going on, and if you don't see this, it's hard to keep track of who's talking. So I'm going to try to point the mouse at whoever's talking when I remember to do it. But anyway. But if it was real, and anything like what our historians thought it would be, he shouldn't be alive. So it is, something is off. Something is wrong. Or someone is lying. I'd be thrilled that were that the case. It was Lacey who declared my spice to be your Kuthental in the first place. She ate the Kuthental, or at least she ate what Dulier determined to be the Kuthental. Then Dulier was wrong. I don't know, Ernal. His machinations are rarely hollow. He's afforded one misguided and gullible leap into nonsense every now and then. Quite the leap, Kuthental. What about vibrations? Do you feel like you're underwater? Jeez. Heron. Oh my goodness. Heron's attention is snapped back to me. No. If it was Kuthental, just because she's not dead yet... Ernal, have a bit of tact. Tact? Tell me what you know about the Kuthental. What at least you think you know. Even if what I drank was not the actual Kuthental, I want to know all I can. Right, of course. Of course, the Kuthental is an ancient marrow referenced throughout the oldest of our preserved history. The information is fragmented, so ultimately all we can do is guess at how it was used. It seems some of our most prestigious warriors were connected to the Kuthental, our leaders. Some believe they laced their weapons with it. Others believe they mended their wounds with it. Some believe they consumed it. As you have. I could have really done without him looking so excited at that fact. And... it was an augment. No, that's not the right word. Oh, right? But what did it do? Enhanced them somehow, made them stronger, or something else. The references are always vague, something big but obscure. The reigning theory, it enhanced them, at a cost. This is why my brother seems to reject the idea that you consumed the Kuthental and are still alive. If he wanted the Kuthental and this is what he got, Julia won't be pleased. Well, if he doesn't want her... Aaron! Oh my indeed. Oh, he will. I just don't think he'll be pleased. Heron, I told you to keep out of sight, you maggot. Ernal groaned. And that's that. This is on your head, Heron. Nevertheless, Heron seemed unfazed. Try to keep note of anything odd you might feel. Bear it great attention. It could end up extremely important. Allow yourself plenty of rest. Every nuance, even the barest of threads tied to the Kuthental, it's all invaluable, in affluence as well as influence. And that is why the Onyx Chandler wants me. One of the reasons Julia calls himself the Onyx Chandler is because he is one of our foremost entrepreneurs, and a galleon entrepreneur is by nature. Well, don't mind that. If you would rather a different, slightly more eccentric patron. Heron is definitely the flirtiest of the bunch. I will string you to the mast, and there you will stay if you do not. He's going. I have to go. Keep precious care of yourself. Ernal watched Heron and Calipoa move away. Though Heron had seemed irreverent at first, he was now moving off as quick as he could, appearing thoroughly cowed. Lacey gave me a long look, then turned to leave as well. And then all that was left was Ernal. Guess I'll try to talk to him. He wasn't paying attention to me, still watching the space where Heron had disappeared. It seemed he was considerably less interested in me than his brother had been. That was a bit of a relief. Your name is Ernal? Surprised, he looked back at me. Yes. Silence hung over us for a second. You are? Nocturna. Ah. What do you do? What is it you do aboard the ship? Why? Why not? I haven't had the chance to talk to any of you, and you at least speak the same language I do. I am a soldier. We all are. I'm currently tasked with assisting the ship's quartermaster. It's not exciting. What were you doing near Edric? I can't tell you that. Then he sighed. All right. What more do you know of the Kuthental? Can you tell me more about the Kuthental, or no? My brother knows more about it than I do. It's a fascination of his. But if you're asking for my personal opinion, it's far less optimistic than Heron's. I don't think the Kuthental was a secret treasure or a secret power. I think it was a punishment. So that's why you think it'll kill me. I think if that was Kuthental and you did consume it, you'd be lucky if all it did was kill you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Jeez. Ah, more notifications. I don't know. I didn't know what to say. I'm sorry. Perhaps I could do with some tact. Can you tell me more about the Onyx Chandler? It seems like you know the Onyx Chandler, Julie? I do. We've known each other for years. If you're hoping to gain insight into what he wants with you, you'll be disappointed. Ah, he keeps his motivations to himself. Not always, but my loyalty is certainly not with you. What did I do to you? What have I done? You've done nothing to me. All I know of you is your entanglement with the Kuthental, a rare, almost mythical, and incredibly valuable substance precious to my people, allegedly in your human belly. I don't know you, I don't trust you, I don't like what you represent either. Okay. Is your brother going to be okay? He's in trouble, isn't he? Yes, he's not supposed to be aboard. Calipoa is notoriously quick to bend rules as far as galleon commanders go, but the fools who take advantage, too much advantage, are bloodied and broken. Is that what's going to happen to Heron? No, not the way he probably deserves, but she is our cousin, and family counts for something, even here. Cousins, huh? Yes, Ernal Millerose, Calipoa Millerose, Vidane Millerose, all tied by our grandfather. Lucky him. It's good to be connected. Indeed. Though he didn't sound convinced. Isn't it? It's not. Do you come from a powerful family? His tone and face suggested he very much doubted I did. No, I don't. Then you don't know what you're talking about. Suppose I don't. He watched me for a moment, then nodded his head ever so slightly. Then he fell into a silence, glancing away. All right, that's all. I'll leave you alone, then. He nodded and wasted no time going on his way. All right. Yeah, I did get some stuff there that I didn't get the first time, because I did things in a different order. Uh-oh, it says the strangeness began that night. Oh, no. Strangeness. But, yeah... There's also this compendium thing. So, if you guys want to get some background on each of these people, there's a little bit of information on each one. So, Lastiaga Darhal, we'll just go in the order that we met them. Were one to ask after Lastiaga among his superiors and peers, they would likely have nothing remarkable to say, unless they were to find his particular demeanor insulting, or happen to have great admiration for his skill with a bow. Lastiaga's had a few minorly impressive moments in his military career, but nothing which sent ripples through the forces, just enough prestige to get him saddled with a scouting partner like Vidane Millerose. Lastiaga seems unbothered by his slow advancement, as though this too is a calculation. For all intents and purposes, Laciaga is an ideal soldier. He relies on intimidation and aggression to get his way, unconcerned with little beyond serving the forces and living a quiet life. He does have a few curious connections with the Onyx Chandler, and some might say he keeps himself too closed off from his peers, but no one is concerned about Laciaga, and that suits him just fine. And the next one we met was Vidane. The loveliest bloom comes from a barren garden, but so unaware of itself, so surrounded by prickles and weeds, it will either think itself no better or think itself hopelessly lost. The mystery of how Vidane managed to cultivate such a soft heart in such an unforgiving atmosphere, no less how it has managed to remain uncrushed in the 6 decades Vidane has been alive. He's 60. Damn elves. Alright. The 6 decades Vidane has been alive piques the interest and ire of many. He is, they will say, surely destined for tragedy, eventually to be consumed or snuffed out by the pressure. To his fortune, Vidane has no interest in complete surrender just yet. His is a quiet, perhaps ridiculous optimism, which nets him a few allies and many enemies. He has become self-sufficient, prone to dreaming, and forced on occasion to become uncomfortably bold. And then, I guess the next one we met was Heron. Heron is a master of capitalizing. He takes the hand he's dealt and makes the most of it, all the while seeming to thrive no matter what way he's forced to adapt. A critic might say it would be easy to roll with the punches when your lot in life is wealth, power, and infamy, but Heron isn't concerned with justifying his existence. He sees the world in his own particular way and uses his means to achieve personal goals, which other Galleons perceive as frivolous or pointless. It's been considered that were Heron to ever set his sights on a larger ambition, he might be a force to be reckoned with, eerily capable of talking, buying, manipulating, bribing, and threatening his way in and out of all manner of things. Perhaps thankfully his concerns have always been personal and self-serving. And the next one we met was Ernal. Some people take strangeness in stride, but others find little worse than being outside the commonplace. Ernal was born in the middle of inter-family war of wills, an instant pawn in a game he had no interest in playing. His tale is not of overbearing expectation or unforgiving duty, which he craved, but rather an expectation to rebel. He was born to the prodigal son, not the demanding general or his more esteemed sons, who enacted high stakes, strict roles, and perilous demands of their children. There was nothing asked of him but to revel in the role of an upstart, to bask in the freedom he was offered outside the confines of Gallian expectation. Instead, he found himself craving for approval from Gallia. He embraced his grandfather's legacy instead of his father's, wishing to be a warrior more than an outcast. He has a blistering temper, indignant pride, and unnerving determination, all of which thoroughly blinded by desperation. Elf body in her hammock, feeling the weight of another. Yes, the strangeness began that night. I think I did just save here, right? I don't know. I think I did, but we'll save, just to be sure. And there is one more person we haven't met yet. Dulier, as you saw, was on the list, but we'll get to him when we get to him. Alright, anyway, the strangeness began that night. I'd settled in my hammock and began to drift off to sleep when cold hands seized hold of my lungs. They squeezed suddenly and tightly. My eyes flew open, but all I saw was the dark. All the light was gone. I wanted to cry out, but I didn't seem to be able. I'd lost my voice. No, I'd lost my throat. Panic was there, bubbling under my ribs, but on the surface I was calm. My eyes were open, searching the blackness, eagerly waiting for the page to turn. But after that, I don't remember. I fell asleep, I think. And then, before I knew it, we were arriving. We were home, but not my home. We had arrived in Gallia. Around me, the elves spoke excitedly. They were happy their journey was at an end. A long time must have passed, but I had no memory of it. My body was heavy, and I wondered if I'd ever actually left the hammock. I felt concerned, but the worry was still dull in the back of my mind. Questions formed slowly. How did I know it was morning? How did I know we had arrived at our destination? Had I been asleep, or had I just forgotten? I gingerly stretched my legs and arms and slowly opened my eyes to the warm glow of lanterns. The weight I felt began to drain away. Despite my long and curious rest, I seemed to be waking quickly. I noticed some of the elves in the hammocks near me grow quiet. They began to stare. I was attracting more attention now than I had when I first arrived. I smiled. They mostly recoiled, averting their gaze. The ones that continued to stare knit their brows in all things between disgust and concern. I began walking towards the stairs leading onto the deck, moving carefully and slowly. I felt awake and light, and despite all the strangeness and the buried concern, I felt happy to be awake. But on the first step, my body filled with weight again. My legs were especially heavy, bearing down where I stood like heavy rocks. But worse, the world began to sway, a slow, sticky pendulum. Elves forming a line behind me urged me forward, caught in the busy fray of soldiers eager to disembark. Guess I shall press on. I tried to move my legs, but the weight in them made it impossible. No matter how I strained, my legs refused to budge. Some of the elves behind me began to grumble in their impatience. Their complaints were escalating rapidly. I guess we'll experiment. Ignoring the elves around me, I moved my right arm to the top of my legs and pressed my thigh, an attempt at prodding my legs into waking. The elves became increasingly restless, moving with a rising aggression around me. They would make to shove me, but I'd barely move. I was not heavy only to myself. I didn't concern myself with them overmuch. I continued to prod my legs, trying to rouse them. Then I felt my thighs tighten, burst alive, and I was back in control, awake again. That's not weird at all. And I think I picked the other one last time because I don't remember some of that stuff. Once on deck, I moved as fast as I dared to the rail, eager to be out of the way if my legs locked up again. I stayed there for a while until Lacey found me. Human, it's time to go ashore. I'm having trouble moving. Is that so? He obviously didn't believe me. I truly am. Everything feels wrong. Then I'll carry you. All right, then. Lasiaga. The Dane approached the two of us from nearby, his icy stare fixed on Lacey. Lacey exhaled a deeply annoyed sigh. The Dane, not right now. Belay your instinct to coddle the weak and helpless until I get her ashore. If dealing with her causes you such frustration, Lasiaga, I would gladly escort her to Dulier myself. You would do that for me? Hand her over and collect my gain? Jolien, men. She doesn't need your help. She is a Gallian superpower and newly becoming, after all. I felt the commander's strong grip as she pulled me against an armored body. The Onyx Chandler's waiting at the dock, Commander. Thank you. Shut up, Lacey. That's how she's calling him Lacey. Despite it all, hearing the commander call him Lacey put a grin on my face. I could feel him scowling. As we departed the bastion, I found myself hoping my mysterious symptoms would clear. Perhaps the sway of the ocean was exacerbating me somehow. Perhaps I was seasick. Seasick, that's all. Listen, human. I don't know what Dulier has prepared for you, and it's true he's more powerful than he should be. But he doesn't have proper authority, and he's not the only one interested in you or the Kuthental. It's not impossible to stand against him. Do you understand? Good. And the woman ate the Kuthental in tea. Good luck, Dulier. And this is Dulier. Thank you, Lasiaga. Your well wishes mean a great deal. Alright. So, since we met the final one now, we'll go ahead and read about him. One often forgets that Gallia is a home to more than dark figures clad in iron and hide. Yikes. It is the notion of many young Gallian soldiers that their dark world runs solely on the sway of their sword, forgetting entirely that there always has been, and always must be, the presence of commerce on their solemn little isle. Dulier is an esteemed figure, unique in his status among generals, tacticians, and swordsmen. He has spent many long years cultivating trade lines and pumping blood into Gallia's economy, an uphill battle if ever there was one in a place such as this. It would take a relentless, tenacious, cunning man determined to succeed, and Dulier has, splendidly. He is very wealthy, and very well connected, and highly suspect. So now we've met all 5 of them. Thank you, Lasiaga. Your well wishes mean a great deal. I heard a small clink as Lacey was past a small bag from a man with blindingly blonde hair. When had blonde ever blinded me before? What exactly was his hair made of? Dulier? Ernal? What are you thinking? What are you going to do with her? You know that you can't... Shh, Ernal. Wait a second. We haven't introduced ourselves. But... Welcome to Gallia, Miss Nocturna. It is truly a pleasure. I am Dulier Lauschust, or the Onyx Chandler, as you may have heard. Calipo helped me steady myself. She lingered a moment until she was satisfied I could hold myself up on my own. Then she gave me an encouraging smile and busily went on her way. You are the Onyx Chandler? Yes, again, it's a pleasure. You and I have much to discuss. Your hair? Oh, yes, it will make it easy for you here. I'm easy to find in a crowd. It's like looking into the sun. What's wrong with me? Or something wrong with him? The trip took a toll on you, Nocturna. Let's get you indoors. And why am I getting so many damn notifications today? So freaking annoying. Alright, anyway. A little help, Ernal? My brother would much prefer to assist you with this, Juliet. No, wait, I'm not going anywhere with you. Oh, well, I have no interest in forcing you, but I do believe I'm the only one that can really help you with our unfortunate predicament. You recall you ate my prize? I didn't do that on purpose. I expect not. He chuckled in dry humor while Ernal sighed. If you did, you would not be here. Not like this, would you? How would I be? Best not to dwell on that. With the ordeal you've been through, I am not lacking compassion. Plucked out of some small isolated village, the world spun out from beneath you. How did he know the world was spinning? The world is spinning. Manhandled and corralled by the likes of La Ciaga, and in this colorless isle of mine, you probably can't tell up from down. I've eaten an ancient Galilean poison that's weighing my body down, making the world spin, and your hair is set aflame, so blinding I can barely look at you. Is that so? That sounds terrible. And what a poor first impression. Let me remind you, dear human, I can help you. For what? What would be the price? Why would you want to? In complete honesty, Miss Nocturna, I paid a great deal to track down the Kuthantal you ignorantly consumed. All that is left to do is to study its effects on you. And that is why you had Lacey drag me here, whether I liked it or not? What gives you the right to do that? You kidnapped me. You could say that, but you could also say that I saved you. If the Kuthantal has something unfavorable in store for you, here is the only place to be if you wish to survive it. Further, I'm far from the only person who is interested in the Kuthantal. Others may be less gentle. You're in quite a lot of danger, I'm afraid. I won't pretend to be altruistic, of course. I seek selfish gains, but consider that this transparency is much more than you'll get from anyone else who would, and they will seek to use you. Where else could I go? I'd met quite a few elves aboard the ship. There had been Vidane, eager to help. Heron had seemed to suggest I had another option with him. Where were they? Where was I? Why did the colors all become so blinding? And why was the world spinning? Why was I heavy? Why couldn't I remember? Nocturna? Ernal sighed. There she goes. Let's just add this to the long list of favors you owe me, Juliet. Oh, jeez. Yikes, indeed. Let's take her inside, Juliet says. Ernal says, but right when... Juliet, do you think so? Ernal, you're so... I could hear muffled voices. They weren't that far, but they were speaking through perhaps a door. I lay somewhere soft, my body snugly sunk into cushions. I kept my eyes shut. Alright, this is sort of a transition-y thing. So, let's go there, I guess. Julia says, certainly not. Judgmental. Ernal says, well, he's in love. Julia, that is... The weight from before was gone, but I was nervous if I tried to move and I couldn't. Or what if I could move, only for the weight to come back again? I wasn't even entirely sure I was alive. Ernal says, did she... Julia, the ship was lost long before. The voices seemed to be moving closer, I think. As I lay still, a great wave of sleepiness took hold of me. I was losing my grip on consciousness again. Of course I was. I will fight it. I willed my strength and determination and struggled against sleep. The overwhelming drowsiness grew more desperate, but still I struggled to maintain awareness. Julia, he's an ambitious man. It's not going to end there. Ernal, why? In all the time he's had control, why would he... The voices were getting closer. Julia, did Nocturna move? Had I? Try to move your arm. I slowly and slightly shifted my arm, trying to avoid notice. I wasn't sure if it was wise to capture the attention of the voices, but I needed to know if I could move. She's moving, Ernal says. Delia, Nocturna, can you hear me? Can you open your eyes? I could try. Excellent. Can you talk? Could I? Take your time. You've been asleep for a while now. When you're feeling better, you really need to eat something. How long? How long this time? Can you talk? Are you in pain? I didn't feel any pain. I felt quite comfortable, in fact. Sleepy, though. The drowsiness had yet to give up. Can you understand me? She opened her eyes when I asked if she could. Nocturna, try not to fall back asleep. That doesn't necessarily mean... They kept talking. Whatever they were saying became less and less important. How long had I been asleep? Why was I so sleepy? I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel hunger. All I felt was sleepiness. We're losing her again. Ugh. She never acted like that before. It's improving. Julia says, it better be. I don't know how much time we have. Yeah, not getting tense at all, is it? Okay. So sort of a transition again, so I guess we'll save again. I sat up and found myself in a dark room. Okay, yeah, exactly. Exactly, that's about how I was the first time I played this. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, I sat up and found myself in a dark room. My heart was pounding. I felt cold and very hungry. I seemed to be in a bedroom. There was a window nearby. Outside I could see the night sky. I was wearing something silky and soft. Noise level 0, whatever that means. I still don't know what that means. I climbed out of the bed and laid my bare feet on the cold floor. It's ancient rupees. It took long enough to kick in, if that's what it is. Because it was like, what, 2 or 3 days before I started passing out? That's a long wait. Oh, my. So I climbed out of bed and laid my bare feet on the cold floor. Search the bedroom. The room I was in was pristine and extravagantly decorated. I was worlds away from Aunt Vanya's hut in Edric. There was a dresser, a nightstand, and a dressing table with multiple narrow drawers. Examine the dresser, I guess? I ran my hand across the surface of the dresser, a soft, delicate wood. My hand fell to the handle of the drawer, and I gave it a gentle tug. The drawer gave a quiet thump. It was locked. I couldn't see or feel a place for a key. It was perhaps locked another way. Insufficient tenacity. Guess we'll... I don't know if I really want to start breaking furniture. I guess we'll leave it alone for now. Search the nightstand. The small nightstand near the bed was made up of stone and glass. The glass was colored, shining in the moonlight. There was a strip of parchment stained with a single drop of blood pinned underneath the heavy lantern. Take the parchment. The parchment was snugly caught underneath the lantern. Forcing the parchment out caused the lantern to slide loud in the quiet. I opened the parchment, careful not to touch the drop of blood. There was writing within that I, of course, could not decipher. I folded the parchment into a smaller square and kept it with me. Okay, so, again, you saw that thing about insufficient tenacity or whatever. I actually do have, trying to think of where I see it now. Settings, compendium, main, quit. Yeah, there's a way to see your traits somewhere. Here they are. Okay. So this shows your traits, apparently. And there are, like, checks and stuff that you get. But they're, like, passive checks. It's really weird. Because they were only mentioned when I had to read the walkthrough on the part where I died. But yeah, it says, if you have high enough this, then do this, blah, blah, blah. So, and I I'm picking some different choices, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect things. So, we'll see. Okay, alright. I folded the parchment into a smaller square and kept it with me. Acquire nightstand parchment. Search the dressing table. A luxurious vanity sat across from the bed with a mirror reaching the ceiling. The wood frame was black, the mirror's frame with a gold inlay. I glanced briefly at my reflection. I looked foreign to myself, cheeks puffy, eyes dewy. I'd been sleeping for a long time. Examine self closer? I leaned closer to get a better look at my face. I couldn't put my finger on it, but something about my reflection was horrifying. Not the foreign gown I was wearing, nor my newly combed hair, not the puffiness in my face, nor even the way the slight perfume in the air almost seemed visible from within my reflection. I touched my cheek, watching as the mimic touched hers. I felt warm, normal, alive. Ah! What? That was normal. I hastily looked away. I spent the rest of my time averting my gaze from the mirror, trying to ignore the thumping in my chest. Everything's fine! Everything's fine! Okay, search the vanity's compartments. The vanity's top was littered with small, painted porcelain containers and black boxes. I opened a few of the porcelain lids. Is it fine? If you say it's fine, that makes it fine. If you just have to say it enough, right? I mean, don't you have random, translucent, purple hands grabbing your face when you look in the mirror? That's perfectly normal. Anyway, I opened a few of the porcelain lids. Potpourri, powders, creams, makeup. The boxes contained little of interest, combs, hairpins. One comb did catch my eye, not because it was especially pretty, but because the metal teeth looked particularly sharp and solid. Gonna put the comb in my hair. I fished the comb out of the box and found it in, half buried in other metal pins. Since I drank a full bottle of meat. Oh, jeez. Then I put the comb in my hair and continued my search elsewhere. What am I leaving alone? Examine the room's artwork. I took some time to examine the room's artwork. There were statues and statuettes on most of the surfaces. The walls were covered in paintings. Even the drapery seemed to tell a story. I noticed that each extravagant piece was deceptive at first. The pieces seemed grand and happy, but only until I looked at them closer. Then they became morbid, sinister. Eye of the beholder, perhaps. Guess we will go to the window. I approached the window and peered outside. There was a garden, a low fence, and beyond that, a city street. What I could see of the city in the moonlight. Yeah, okay. Alright, it was overwhelming, towering, dark spires stretching towards the sky, the highest of which disappeared completely into the sky. The window itself was latched shut. It would be easy to open. Guess we'll leave it alone for now. Guess we'll leave the bedroom. The bedroom door was unlocked and opened mercifully without a creak. Outside the bedroom, I found myself in a hall that extended far both to my left and right. I could see a faint light coming from somewhere down the hall to my left, while to my right I could only see a dark series of doors just like the one I'd exited. Guess we'll go left. I stilled myself and carefully made my way down the left hall as quietly as I could. The closer I got to the light, the clearer the sound of a fire crackling. Drawing closer still, an exuberant smell took over my senses. Something was being cooked, something which smelled delicious, and to a stomach as empty as mine, utterly intoxicating. I inched my way to the very edge of the open archway, just inside the warm glow, the delicious smell. Peek in. Unable to restrain myself, I carefully peered into the room with the glorious smell. Before me, I saw an enormous kitchen. A large fire was responsible for the bright glow, and just above the fire, a pot where no doubt the food could be found. My appetite, as ravenous as it was, I couldn't restrain myself any longer. I quickly made my way into the room where I was inexplicably alone and helped myself to the soup bubbling in the pot. Nothing was ever more delicious. Look for a knife. It occurred to me that being in a kitchen, there would surely be knives at hand. Eager for means to defend myself, I searched the kitchen for a knife. I found one before too long, a large, unwieldy thing, but very sharp edge. Head back. Actually, no, I think I'll search the kitchen. Glanced around the kitchen, looking for anything noteworthy or curious. There are some dirty rags on a preparation table nearby, as well as a small row of bowls filled with uneaten soup. I found the uneaten meals strange. There were 4, none of which appeared even slightly eaten. I wonder why. Head back into the main hall. I backtracked until I was once again in front of my bedroom door. Guess we'll check the other hall. I decided to head down the right hall. The hall was dark and quiet. I felt relatively certain I was safe and alone. As I headed down the hall, I passed a series of doors that all looked similar. When I finally came to an entrance that was remarkably different from the rest, I paused in front of it and considered trying to enter. This room had 2 doors, framed in an ornate, pretentious design. Guess we'll enter the double-door room. The doors were heavier than the bedroom door had been. But inside, the room was much too dark to see anything. I thought I could make out the shape of drapes, and I could perhaps venture inside, pull them open, and let in the moonlight. I don't know. Guess I'll close the doors and stay in the hallway. Thinking better, but I closed the doors as gently as I could and looked back into the hallway. Keep going, I guess. I moved further down the hall until I was all the way to the end. I began to turn back around when I heard a muffled voice through a nearby door. My first instinct was to freeze in place, convinced I was about to be discovered, but the quiet voice continued to speak without missing a beat, the speaker completely unaware of my existence. I could tell it was a woman talking, though I couldn't make out any words through the door, and even if I were sitting right next to whoever was talking, they were probably speaking their language and not mine. Guess I'll put my ear to the door? I don't think I did that last time, because I was thinking, well, if somebody catches me eavesdropping, that'll probably be worse than if I just returned to my bedroom. I don't know. We'll save, just in case I get immediately killed. Put your ear to the door. Go by ear. I inched closer, as quiet as possible. After listening for a few seconds, I realized I could understand what was being said after all. Woman's voice. Don't understand why he's keeping her here. She's not a pet. She's a person. Ernal says, no one is using words like pet except for you and Heron. This is the safest place for her. Woman says, this is hardly a charity. He wants her here to keep control. Ernal says, and what if that simultaneously means she's safest here? Silence hung in the air. Dulier says, I'm disappointed. The woman I had watching you is obviously unworthy of her salary. I jumped. I didn't quite recognize the voice, even though I felt like I should have. Now, no need to be so tense. You are my guest. I turned around and I saw the blonde man from the docks. He'd been talking with Ernal before as well when I'd woken up. How many times had I woken up and fallen back asleep? Are you feeling all right? He stared intently, searching my face for its secrets. I was hungry. I woke up utterly starved. It was a reasonable explanation, wasn't it? As a boon, it was the truth. I'm not surprised. We've barely been able to feed you a thing. Are you still hungry? I found something cooking in the kitchen. I helped myself. Did you? Good. Resourceful. If you're filling up for it, there are some things the healers want me to ask you. Are you angry? Are you upset with me? Upset? For looking around? Who wouldn't when waking up in a strange place? And you are a guest, not a prisoner. That said, would you feel comfortable answering some questions for me? It would be illuminating for us both, I'm sure. All right. All right. I was certain I sounded unsure. I felt it. This was a sort of beautiful but eerie house, and this was a suspicious and definitely mysterious man. And the greatest mystery of all rested in my stomach. Irele, a well-respected healer that I contracted to work with us, compiled a list of symptoms and proposed treatments. Symptoms of the Kuthental? Yes, what little research we have regarding the Kuthental always concerned its application to elven bodies. In a general sense, your kind are not as hardy. What? How do you know that? It's debatable, if you like. We only assume that a human would succumb to anything far easier than an elf would based on how our people respond to other things. But I have no interest in convincing you of your physical inferiority, nor of my own superiority. These are mere assumptions, not facts. Still, it would be better to have contingency plans all the same, no? The research is grim for even the best of specimens. Then what does the research say will happen to me? The research only suggests what may happen, but don't lose heart. For every word of despair, there's a word of hope, of defeat, of power. Of defeat, comma, power. Okay. What kind of power? The warriors who'd taken Kuthantal were stronger than their peers. As vague as our records are, what most of the writings have in common is the idea that the Kuthantal is a key to some greater threshold beyond oneself. Now, what could that mean? If they were stronger, faster, smarter, if they understood things or saw things that we normally don't, there are dozens of suggestions. I would be happy to go over them individually with you later. What do you mean, see things that we normally don't? That specific reference comes from an almost entirely destroyed manuscript. What I've already said of it is about all there is to say. When was it destroyed? Ages ago. It seems it was damaged shortly after it was made. He smiles. Do you have an interest in Galilean history? If only for obvious reasons? Of course, I would feel the same. Fortunately, researching my people's obscure and muddled past is a hobby of mine. For now, we'll have to wait and see what fantastic abilities you manifest. We? Of course, you and I are both in an unexpected situation, forced to adapt. Why do I get the feeling I'm not going to like this? Seems that I'm at your mercy either way. This doesn't need to be unpleasant. We can be a benefit to one another. If you adjust particularly well, you might not need me in the end. You might find yourself thriving beyond all expectation. And should you harbor a desire for revenge against Lastialgar or myself, at that point we'd be at your mercy. And why would you ever let me out of your control? I again remind you that you're hardly in chains, but you, with the Kuthantal, are an ancient fire. It makes you unknown. You can trust that if nothing else, I intend to treat it with careful reverence. I began to feel overwhelmed, and my world began to get hazy again. While I wanted more information, the more I heard, the more difficult it became to listen. Julia smiled in a way I assume was meant to be comforting. Perhaps it would be better to pace this out. Take a chance to reacquaint yourself with the waking world, and I will gather the information I've collected and present it to you this evening. You can have the run of the estate in the meantime. All right. Very well. In the meantime, do as you please. I would suggest staying on the estate, but as I said, I'm not your keeper. Perhaps you'd like some air out in the garden. What passes for a garden in the mouth of the city, anyway? It'll be light out in an hour or so if you're uncomfortable in the dark. But you mustn't be too afraid of the dark, exploring as you were. Oh, and Nocturna, do you recall meeting an elf named Heron when you were aboard the Bastion? Heron, young, pleased with himself? Yes, I met him. Dulier sighs. Heron and Ernal will be over this evening. Heron's been relentlessly trying to get an audience with you. He's been at it for days now. They're bringing over their own records concerning the Kuthantal. I suspect you'd be interested. 2 birds, 1 stone. Their own information? What information do they have? I told you that records from the era of the Kuthantal are rare and poorly preserved. Most Gallian history is like that. Anything predating your arrival or our arrival on this island, the island we call Gallia, is scarce and ridiculously valuable. The bulk of our historical tracings are in privately owned collections. That seems odd. It is. Neither the Crown nor the forces have ever made any attempt to gather our ancestral trappings. No interest in preserving, protecting, or even studying. Lonray has a particularly keen interest in collecting artifacts from the ancient Gallians. Hart knows what his interest in history is. Lonray? Heron and Ernal's father. There's something odd about Lonray's name. They all have odd names. What are you talking about, lady? But whatever the reason for Lonray's interest, it is to our fortune tonight. His sons, not without their access to Lonray's collections, have volunteered to aid us in our research. I see, that's convenient. Yes. If you need anything, there are servants about who can assist you. Somewhere. Alright, we got another transition, so let's save again. I spent the rest of the day in the room I woke up in. My room, as Juliet called it. A daze lingered while I tried to prepare myself for dinner with the elves. What answers could I hope to get from these elves? Julia seems as trustworthy as a golden snake in a wheat field. From what I could remember of Heron and Ernol, Heron's mind is scattered and difficult to place, and Ernol is hardly my ally. If the Kithental is so mysterious and so unknown, did they even have answers to give? I felt a certain dread, both in suspecting I'd never get answers and in fearing that I would. Knowing exactly what it was, nestled in my belly, slithered around in my veins, stirred up in my head. And somebody named Skylar is saying, Nocturna. I looked toward the voice and immediately felt wary. A woman entered my room without waiting for a reply and stood before me. I recognized her voice. She was the woman I heard speaking through the door. Hello. Greetings. Have we met? Had she found out I was listening to her? No, we haven't. Good. Well, you're Nocturna. Yes. I see. What do you want? I wanted to see the girl causing all the commotion. The girl who's incredibly unlucky, maybe stupid. Oh god. I don't know. How am I getting, why am I keep getting stupid freaking things all the time? Alright, unlucky. I'm almost certain it's incredibly unlucky. A self-pitying sigh escaped my lips, even despite me. Oh. This time she sighed. You're glib, and I was all ready to dislike you. It would make it easier to ignore what happens to you. And to top it all, you don't even know how undone you are. Right, you don't. Understand the depths of your unlucky draw? I feel quite unlucky, but I have a feeling you know more. And did I even want to know? There is no way this ends well for you, human. That is, Nocturna. How much do you know about Gallia? Absolutely nothing. She didn't seem to be asking an actual question. She kept talking without missing a beat. They'll never let you go back to being whatever you were before. One way or another, Gallia will have its way. I took a deep breath and focused carefully on the woman who'd still not introduced herself. Well, why did you really come here? You didn't just come here to warn me. No. So? She sighed and avoided making eye contact. I got a bad feeling. As much trouble as you're in, you're not any good for the people around you, either. I don't want you here. Okay, what do you expect me to do? Where should I go then? I can't go back home. I don't know. Perhaps Vidane could hide you out in the woods until someone could smuggle you home. By the way, dinner is almost ready. Look in your dresser. The woman stepped back outside the room. See, now, I made some different choices there, too. Because I got some stuff I didn't have before, so... I'm getting scared. I'm making different choices. Because I managed to get a happy ending the first time, but I had to do one redo on one scene. But other than that, the one stepped back outside the room. Wait a minute. Hey, you're just going to leave? No response. Well then, the dresser. From the window in my room, the sky turned lighter gray, only to darken again. The wet haze outside thus far had been a gloomy constant. There were a few windows in Julier's house, and the interior was mostly black, so inside it was always dark. The maid who'd fetched me said only 2 words to me, come, and of course, the tried and true human. Tried and true favorite. She led me through the house until we came to a pair of large doors. She stopped in front of one and waited for me to open the other. Okay. Before me, I saw Juliet, Heron, Ernal, and Skylar in an extravagant dining hall. All turned their heads toward me immediately. Nocturna. Heron rose from his seat and began to approach. Ernal wasn't long behind, though it was interesting to be containing Heron more than anything. Are you all right? Locked away in this ghastly man's tower. This is almost too ridiculous to believe. Heron, you promised. Ghastly? I'm as well as to be expected. Other than the Kuthental, the strange island, and the elves, everything is just fine. That's mildly comforting. It would be a simple matter to swarm the place with soldiers, Module. Just say the word. She's not captive, Heron. Indeed. Now, if you want her to be a captive, by all means, swarm the place with soldiers. There are soldiers looking to capture me? Not proactively, not at the moment. However, should you be conveniently delivered to the forces, I very much doubt they let you go. Doesn't that take more sense than trying to figure out what to do with her all on your own, Juliet? You underestimate me. Should we be letting her decide? Think I'll stay here for now? As best as I can tell, I should stay here for now. And really, if you're trying to push her into making a decision that might well affect the remainder of her life, shouldn't she at least have the information we gathered to give her first? I nodded. What I wanted to know right now was everything I could about the Kuthental. The rest, well, one battle at a time. It's time I understood what was going on. Your constitution seems to have returned. As though her lacking constitution were ever more than an excuse to keep her where you wanted. Heron. The brothers brought their father's collection of ancient Gallian texts. It's very fortunate. I've been after these texts for decades, but with you here now, there's no time to be timid. Please, don't touch. Lanre is, well, fun as it might be to upset his collection, these are precious artifacts, and aggravating him any more than necessary is a hassle none of us needs right now. Truly, my father isn't aware Heron and I stole the ancient Kuthental texts, but what are they good for if not something like this? I saw the texts splayed across the table. Truth be told, I was wondering when the ancient tomes would show up. There's also other artifacts, some small statuettes, a chain pendant, other bits of jewelry. My attention was primarily focused on a vile-looking dagger. This is ominous. Well, at least there are no inconspicuous bloodstains. We cleaned those off. Aaron. Curiously, sacrifice might have more to do with it than you'd hope. I hate to be right. Please remember that none of this can possibly be conclusive unless you yourself can confirm it. These texts in places contradict each other, and there's no way to guarantee the authenticity of any one thing over another. All of what any of us know about the Kuthental is like that. In a way, you are closer than any of us to knowing the truth. But I understand very little. Maybe that is true right now, but it will change. So let us begin. The Kuthental traces back to the very beginning of our society, of Gallia. It's one of the oldest and one of the only surviving traces we have of where we came from. By all accounts, it seems certain that the intention of the Kuthental was to ultimately give a being power. But as with most great powers, the path to the Kuthental's secrets came with a catch, if you will. There always is. It is referred to multiple times throughout multiple volumes that the power from the Kuthental is an exchange. Unfortunately, further elaboration on what exactly that means, what is being exchanged with whom, can only be guessed at. Do you have an idea what the exchange means? Arnold's question caught me off guard. I guess we'll go with, is that why I slept for so long? Is this exchange why I slept for days? That doesn't seem normal. It is not. Well, not for elves. It's not normal for humans either. You've certainly been displaying a number of odd symptoms. We'll figure out how it all connects, don't worry. So while we don't know what might be or must be exchanged for the Kuthental's power, we do know that the power the Kuthental gave was extraordinary. The reverence, the awe, and the dread are nearly universal. There is something fantastic behind the Kuthental, and it is something that shaped the beginning of our people. Listen. All of us switch our focus to Skylar, who'd snuck off to look over one of the ancient texts. Let us not be consumed before our task is complete. Let us not step too far into the realm of the... Skylar? I'm trying. I haven't seen this word before. It looks like flame or smoke, but... Let me see. Oh, I've never seen this before either. How would you say that, Dulier? I stared intently at the two elves, waiting with absolutely no patience for them to continue. Perhaps... Oh, here. There was excitement in Dulier's voice. We are weightless where they are heavy. Heavy? Yes, does that mean something to you? It might. He nods at me slowly and continues to read. We abandoned ourselves and became something new. The best of us can become whole again. And then Skylar took over. But for every heavy fist, another 5 disappear, claimed by that word again. Smoke? It's in tune with the others. The Kuthental claims far more than it elevates. Don't be grim, Ernal. The rest of the passage is spent talking about nothing relevant. Names of the dead. Delia gives Skylar a frightful look. What? She should know. Heron tapped his finger on a pendant he wore. Perhaps the smoke is the madness. All the elves succumbing to smoke, fog, haze, madness. And if madness was so prevalent among those involved with the Kuthental, who's to say that those who wrote the text themselves are not mad? Whoever wrote this is making up words, isn't he? Not necessarily. It's an old dialect. It's possible the word was lost. If you apply it to the rest, perhaps it's suggesting those who master the Kuthental are powerful because they can change themselves, step back out of the fog. Is that what you took from that? While Delia and Ernal spoke, I felt Heron and Skylar's gaze on me. What do you think, Heron? Heron? I think you've already beaten the odds, Module. What you're hearing is your success, not your downfall. That seems too optimistic. Thanks. I hope you're right, Heron. Thanks for saying so, anyway. Of course. We're leaving the text with Juliet for the next few weeks, so Skylar and Juliet can come over them. Assuming, of course, well, my point was that this is likely your best chance at finding answers. For one reason or the next, this was not at all comforting. Are you leaving? Ernal nodded. We aren't really useful to the effort, not beyond stealing from our father. And Juliet knows everything we do already. I guess... I don't know. I'm being indecisive now. Because I've gone off the track that I knew. Things have changed. I mean, some things are the same, obviously, but some things are different. So now I don't know what to pick. Are you leaving, Heron? You as well? Yes, I'm afraid so. Try not to worry. This hasn't all happened just for you to perish. Always so optimistic. Heron looks considerably more conflicted to leave, part with a sincere promise that I'll be back, coupled with that module word of his. Maybe I'd ask him about it sometime. With the brothers gone, Julia and Skylar continued their research. They tried to enlighten me on occasion, but their references were obscure and only seemed to add more pieces to the puzzle. I began to fade, so I returned to my room. My head was feeling heavy, my mind foggy, my body numb. They were all waiting to see what would happen to me, waiting for their own answers. In the middle of the night, there was a light tapping at my window. When I woke, I found myself atop the blanket in my bed, still wearing the clothes I'd been wearing the evening prior. I rose and moved toward the window, searching for the source of the tapping. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, nothing that could explain the noise. Strange. I found myself staring at the foggy, dark silhouettes of the city. I thought I had the night before returned to me. There, outside the window, was freedom. Perhaps not safety or assurance, but freedom from others making decisions for me, from this immediate hold. Juliet would have me believe that here with him is the only chance I've got, but what does his word count for? If I believed him, I'd stay right here, right where he wants me. But why should I believe him? A city on an island full of strange beings? There really was nowhere to run. Hallie Graw, some muffled voice. I heard a shout. It was far away, but loud enough to hear it through the walls. They sounded angry. Rockfuss! Whose voice was it? It didn't sound like any of the elves I'd met, but I couldn't be sure, not through the walls. Skylar says, "Do you really think the Onyx Chandler is going to defy the Grand General? He's not the fool that you are." An angry voice says, "The half-human returns to her human tongue. Stop your meddling. I know that the Kuthental woman is here." They were louder now, closer, and they weren't speaking Gallian. I recognized Skylar's voice, but now I was certain that the second came from someone unfamiliar. Dulier says, "I have nothing to hide, Growlivore." Dulier, he spoke just outside my door. Angry voice says, "Dozens saw you bring her here. Where is she? You Frenali Crusrule." They switched back to their own language, but I understood that they were coming for me. Any moment now. I looked again at my window. Well, I don't know who the hell this person is, but they don't sound friendly. I mean, Lacey sounds friendlier than them. So I guess we'll escape. I pushed open the window and swung my feet out, jumped down into the dark garden, and then I ran. Bye-bye, hotties. I will miss you forever. All right. Another transition, you say. The streets outside Delia's home were mostly empty. And rain. Of course there was rain. Not far down the street I could see an approaching crowd. They were coming fast. They hadn't spotted me yet, but drawn as they were to Delia's house and the commotion therein, I didn't think it would take them long to spot me. Gallian elves as a whole seemed predatory in nature. Besides, I was hardly hidden, just a dripping, freezing, frazzled human who had swallowed the Kuthental. So I hurried away from the house, doing my best to make as little a spectacle of myself as possible. I didn't know where I was going, but any distance between myself and those who'd come for me was good enough. The streets were nearly empty, and before too long I came to the docks. The large shipping crates seemed abandoned for the rainy night, and I thought the crates a good place to hide, as good as I thought I'd get. I crouched down. While I was certain I'd managed to make it to the docks unfollowed, I immediately spotted the sight of a silhouette. A chill ran down my spine. Dun, 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 dun. I waited and watched, searching for any indication that he was aware of me. It became clear that he was. Guess we'll confront him? What do you want? The elf stepped toward me, his face catching the light so I could make out his features. He wore a small smile, but said nothing. Don't get any closer. I had the knife from Julia's kitchen stashed in my vest. I'd been keeping it hidden since the night before. Not comfortably. I took it in my hand, clutched it tight, and held it where I knew the elf could see it. Is that a kitchen knife? His voice was low and cracked with just the dullest tone of disbelief. It's a knife? A sharp edge is a sharp edge. He shrugged. Equally useless as in an unskilled hand. Were they all this smug? My father used to tell me stories about the Kuthental, the way it would change an elf if he was strong, the way it would change him if he was weak. The Kuthental? He knew? You know about the Kuthental? How do you know about the Kuthental? He laughs a sour laugh at my expense. What do you mean? It's not a secret, and it is a small island. And tell me, what do you want? Then let's get to it. I planted my feet hard in the ground, straightened my spine, and projected my voice. What do you want? I thought carefully how to approach this elf. I felt extremely uneasy around him, and considering my company of late, that was saying something. What is it exactly that you want from me? I want to know if what they say is true. I felt another wave of apprehension. I wasn't sure what he meant, nor how I could ever provide proof of anything. He took another step closer. Oh my god, why am I getting so many damn freaking messages today? Alright. I knew then that he intended to hurt me, and he was too close to run from. Guess we'll try bargaining. Wait, you don't have to do this. I don't? She doesn't bear negligence well. I could barely hear what he said, my mind too busy racing for something I could offer him in exchange for my life. But I could think of nothing. I had nothing. Lacey! This has turned out about as I expected. At hearing his voice, a part of me thought I was saved. Another thought my demise had just been made all the more certain. Lacey. I saw his face twitch. Lacey. Perhaps I'll save Ekere the trouble. Don't overstep, Laciaga. You're in enough trouble as it is. Mietwen doesn't notice my missteps any more than she notices yours. What could she possibly want with the dying rabbit? It doesn't matter what she wants, it only matters that she wants it. I wasn't sure what was happening. But much like being caught between the teeth of two warring wolves, I wanted to be far from both of them. And yet, though it was almost too ridiculous to acknowledge, a part of me thought Lacey was defending me. At the very least, he was here to save her his own kill. Julia was preparing her for the Grand General, so your options here are to walk away intelligently, and I'll let him know, or pit my employer against yours. The stranger snorted. The Onyx Chandler has grown awfully proud if he thinks his reach extends to her. Lacey stayed quiet, for some reason looking a touch smug, and the stranger had a confusing expression of his own. But all you want is tonight. All right, encourage him to make bold moves. His downfall has been a long time coming. As you say. Laciaga mumbled something in his native language. Move. Wait a minute. What? What? What just happened? What was all that about? Galleon politics. Start moving. I'm not one for standing in the rain. No, explain now. No, Lacey, tell me. Lacey stayed silent and still for a breath, then sighed and looked back at me. The Grand General wants you. I'm not sure in what fashion. He is the most powerful entity in Gallia, though Dulier has ways of subverting his attention. How successful Dulier will be this time, we'll have to wait and see. It bodes poorly for you either way. Why are you helping me? Yeah, and why are you helping me? You still don't know. Dulier pays me. I don't think that's the only reason. I think there's a little more to it. Do you? Personal interest? I can't quite put my finger on it, Lacey, but I get the feeling it's a little more personal. Coin is always very personal. Though perhaps you're a particularly entertaining human, and it would be a shame to let Ekere or his mistress make swift work of you. He says the sweetest things. This went a different way too before, so how sweet. Ah, that's rather sentimental for you, isn't it? Sentimental would be telling you I couldn't stand to see you dismembered. I'm sure Vidane wouldn't be hard to track down if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, this is new. This didn't go this way before, because I think before I said, did you just, or did you actually help me or something, instead of asking him more questions. But anyway. I guess I keep hoping he'll show up, but instead I get you. And yet here you are, not him. Further evidence of my extreme misfortune. You'll have all the evidence you'll need before too long. Let's go. Let's go. Lacey signaled in the direction with his hand and waited for me to walk in front of him. Oh my. Ah, jeez. See, it's always fun when Lacey's in the scene. Because it's just funny. We arrived at a small cabin, which reminded me all too much of home. Lacey deposited me into the cabin and then left it, all without saying a word. I had begun to settle in a little by the time he came back in. There are harpies, but none too close. Harpies? Hadn't I mentioned? These woods are infested. Better count all your toes twice before you tuck yourself in tonight. I have all mine. Do you have all yours? My toes are fine. What about yours? Fine. All 12. Wait, 12? Elves of 12. You see what I mean? Even though he's like the jerk of the bunch, he's got some of the funniest one-liners just because it's him. Ah, jeez. You're not serious. He shrugged. Oh, jeez! Help! I'm surrounded! I think this was one of the screen caps I posted on Twitter, just to show you the extreme difficulty of the decisions in this game. This, folks, this is the extreme difficulty. Too many hot boys. Too many. Time for sexy time. Well, I don't know. We'll see, I guess. More elves arrived in a group not very long after that. How are you holding up, Nocturna? Better than you'd think. I'm not really sure how I got away unscathed, but... Dulier smiled. Group fun. Excellent. Galoyas, our Grand General, has sent his soldiers out to collect you for execution. He's not pleased with how popular you've become in the Gallian rumor wind. I'm popular? I've become popular. In rumors, yes. Contrary to what outsiders often think, Gallians have active imaginations. It's hard not to when you understand little of your own station, your own history. We know just enough to shape our pace. As though running and fighting will one day lead us to where we need to be. So when there are promises of understanding in the air, there are ears everywhere to hear. Attention, excitement, hope. An odd way to view Gallians from what I've learned so far. We do try very hard to appear as shallow as possible. But for the most part, we are. Regardless of wanting to understand more, all we ever do is run and fight. That's not what we're doing now, is it? Not yet. There are a lot of open minds out there. And a lot of dangerous minds. So yes, the island has taken notice of you. There are many eager to learn what becomes of you. And some eager to have a piece of you. What now? What now? Okay. Brother, can you refrain? There are a lot of mixed feelings about your humanity, too. The Kuthental is one thing, but to take form in a human? He snorted. It's insulting in an amusing sort of way. Oh, jeez. That has struck a particularly resentful chord with some. You'll need to be very careful. But you'll just teach them a new thing or two about humans, won't you, Madrele? Why are all of you helping me? In that case, then, I don't understand. Why aren't you handing me over to your Grand General? That's a good question. Because he wants to kill you, Madrele. Some decisions we must abide even when we do not agree, but there are others so unspeakably foolish. My grandfather's been making questionable decisions for some time now. It's treason. We have different motivations, but it's treason. Make no mistake about that. Questionable decisions? What do you mean by questionable decisions, Vidane? Vidane grew uncomfortable as his cousins and Lacey shifted their gaze to him. Gallia has a monarchy, and if you hadn't noticed, it's through no fault of your own. The king is little more than a figurehead. My grandfather has grown increasingly bold in his reach. By and large, the people accept it as it falls in line with our beliefs. But some are starting to understand why a general is not always fit to be a king. Didn't they say something like that in Game of Thrones about Robert Baratheon? But anyway... The way he's handling you is a fair example of that. He's losing favor? So he's not that popular anymore. In a fashion, but the trouble is he is a very celebrated general. He's extremely effective at war. Most of our forces are happy to follow him wherever he leads. And in hand, most of the people are soldiers where unquestionable loyalty is paramount. I know that others see his missteps, but actually speaking against him is another matter entirely. Alright, so what do we do now? Then what's the plan? Vidane and Lasiaga are going to patrol the perimeter of this building. It's not difficult to draw connections to Lasiaga from myself, so he'll have to be particularly subtle. Vidane is far freer of suspicion, but we all have commitments. Lest we bring soldiers to you, you may be alone for a few days. Ernal and Heron aren't scouts. Their access to the woods will be limited, but they're doing what they can. Ernal is helping me, and Heron is applying his own resources. Aren't you in trouble? But everyone knows you're the one who... I'm under suspicion. If they can't find you, nothing is proven. Galoyes and I already have a tense relationship. Galoyes is the Grand General who runs the place instead of the king, for those of you that are getting confused with all the different names. Since I played through the whole time, I have an idea of who's who. But yeah, Galoyes is Ernal, Heron, and Vidane and Calipoa's grandfather, and he's the Grand General, and he basically runs the country while the king doesn't do F all. So, that's to catch you up on who's who there. Alright, anyway. I'll be fine. Maybe you'll be kidnapped and forced to live on an island of humans. Perhaps as punishment, a crass, hulking human will manhandle you onto a ship and transport you, whether you like it or not, to a human island. Yes, the Grand General is the grandfather of everybody here except for Lacey and Juliet. He's the grandfather of those other three. And he's a big poo head who wants to execute me. And he runs the country instead of the king. No, thank you. Well, let me see if that option comes up. I'm limited by my choices, but we'll see if it does show up. Okay. Where some eerie purple-eyed woman will tell you you've been poisoned and may die to madness or be consumed by power. Crass. Eerie? That sounds fitting. Yes. And then you'll have to live in a cabin in the woods infested with flesh-eating humans. So just be sure I've got this right. On this island of yours, are the flesh-eating humans crazed, or... Lasiaga, this island she came from, was it? Did I forget to mention the cannibalism? Look! Lacey's going along with the joke! Lacey's got a sense of humor. Even though he's usually a jerk, he does have a sense of humor. And it's quite fun. Okay. Oh, jeez. I'm sorry, my sense of humor is quite awake tonight. I wasn't really trying to make you laugh. I enjoy coming up with revenge scenarios. It helps me cope. So I'll be alone in this cabin for how long? Not for very long. If this goes on much longer, then I expect we'll find other arrangements for you. We'd have to. Scouts will be training in this area in 2 months, and 4 months after that is the Surus calling. Months? It won't be anything like that. Ideally, you'll be here only a few days. You'll have supplies. Lasiaga and Vidane will help keep the perimeter safe, and the rest of us will work to pacify Galoyes. We will check in on you when it's safe to do so. How will I stay informed? In the meantime, I'm in the dark. I'm just to hope you'll work it out. Nocturna, I'm not trying to keep things from you. This is your fate, and more than anyone else, you are invested. I recognize that. If there is news to be had, and we can get it to you, we will. But again, I do not intend for this to be longer than a brief stay. I sighed uncomfortably. I'll see what I can get away with, Nocturna. It's risky. And unnecessary. But Heron said something might happen to her while she's alone. Just a blink ago, she was in and out of consciousness. Or so Juliet says. Juliet and your brother. But he's right. Although, there was very little we could do for her before. All the same, I think it's worth the risk if you do, Nocturna. Lasiaga and Vidane could sneak back with the most discretion. Yes, please come back whenever possible. I nodded. I'd appreciate that. Vidane returned the nod. All right, I'll do my best. Lacey, meanwhile, gave a heavy sigh. Just don't blame us if we lead someone to you. Then just do your job and cover your tracks. I'm not... Can you two do that later, please? Try to keep your spirits up, Nocturna. We are far from having our backs to the wall. You're going to change things, you'll see. The elves grew quiet in the dusty, crowded cabin. I stole a few looks around, trying to imagine what I was in for over the next few days. These cabins are so small. Bigger than the hut Vanya and I shared. And big enough for the elves that split into two groups, Lacey and Vidane on one side, Dulier, Heron, and Ernal on the other. The scouts were talking about the perimeter of the forest, and the other three seemed to be discussing strategies for outmaneuvering the general. All of them, save Lacey, who would break into Gallian every few words, were speaking my language. I understood this to be for my benefit. I'm going to give it another save because it's been a bit. Okay, so this is where you get a chance to talk to each of them. I was worried that you could only pick one, but I'm pretty sure you can talk to all of them. So, alright. So I guess we'll just go down the list. Talk to Dulier. Dulier? He stopped mid-sentence and turned his attention toward me, and then nodded and waved Ernal and Heron to continue. The two of us took a few steps into the corner of the cabin, though there was no real privacy. Earlier, though I would have preferred you'd stayed in my home, it worked out to our advantage. The soldier who was so certain he'd find you could not. I will probably only exacerbate Galois's suspicions, but without evidence, he will likely move slower. And what would you have done if I'd stayed? If I had stayed, then the soldier would have found me. How could that have been any better? I could have convinced the soldier to keep his mouth shut. How could you be so sure? I've grown a talent for assessing how pliable a person is. And he was pliable? Very, and a questionable choice for the forces, but that's what happens when you engulf 3/4 of the population. And what if you were wrong? That is a possibility, right? I found myself mocking his arrogance just slightly. It struck a chord with me. Of course it's a possibility, but if we're to play the game of odds... He shifted his posture as though preparing for some sort of display. What if you had somehow escaped the city only to find yourself in these woods of ours filled with hungry harpies? What if you had managed to stow away on a ship and were found at sea by soldiers, where you were then thrown overboard? Or stretching imagination further, you managed to stay hidden against the odds, and instead you found yourself in the midst of one of our battles for hire. Somewhere even more obscure and far from home than this place currently is to you, and caught in the thick of battle, no less. But I digress, as most likely what would have happened is you were simply caught less than a dozen steps outside my home, then beyond my reach, promptly submitted for execution. You stayed ahead of the odds, Nocturna. I'm impressed. But I think staying with me would have been wisest. The Kuthental represents many things to my people. For some, like most of us here, the anticipation to uncover years of wondering, the temptation of untapped power is a powerful allure. But there are some who fear it, not because of the horrors it may bring to its bearers, but because of the secrets its existence may uncover. You see, if the Kuthental is real, it brings with it more questions than answers. It forces the light on shadows many of us would rather ignore. So you're saying there are a lot of elves very interested in what becomes of me? Yes, a lot of elves who have long been taught to conquer their fears with violence. And sadly, sometimes lacking the insight to realize this does not mean merely killing that which frightens you. There are elves afraid of me? In a manner of speaking? I expect, should it be a path you wish to take, you could confirm their fears with just the smallest dash of suggestion. I'll keep it in mind. I'll keep that in mind. I happily bluff my way out of confrontation whenever possible. I've noticed. You're rather unsettling, by the way. Has anyone ever told you you're rather unsettling to be around? He seemed mildly surprised, if amused. You even seem more unnerved by me than most. You just exude trustworthiness. Well, some things are just unavoidably in one's nature. Alright. I love the whole being able to talk to them all thing. It's so fun. Talk to Ernal. Ernal? His attention shifted over to me in surprise. After a brief hesitation, he stepped away from Julia and Heron and approached me. You know, when you left Julier's house, we were scrambling to find you. Laciaga managed to get to you first, but do you know who that elf was? The one who cornered you on the docks. Ekere, an assassin. This is a mess. It's a nightmare. This is more than a mess. This is a complete nightmare. Don't spend too much time trying to wake up, Nocturna. This is the waking world. It's very dangerous out here, but if you fortify the cabin when we leave and you keep quiet and out of sight, and looking around with this assembly of people in addition to Kalapoa's influence, you'll have a fighting chance at least. I'll do my best. I looked around the cabin and sucked in a deep breath, trying to stave off the overwhelming sense of dread. Thus far, I had managed it handily. You can move that table in front of the door, and you'll fit under the bed if something does manage to get in here. Hide under there. They don't have much of a nose, so if you're quiet and can hide. He was trying to help me, though whether it was from a sense of obligation, desperation, or compassion, I wasn't sure. Thank you. I nodded at him. Alright, thank you. I mustered up a smile, and he returned it for a brief moment. Vidane and Laciaga might have more advice for you, though who's to say how reliable Laciaga is. I'm sure all he cares about is getting paid. But as Juliet said, this should only take a few days. I'll let you get back to your conversation. Yes, that's probably for the best. Those two make questionable decisions sometimes. He stole another glance at Heron and Juliet, then looked back at me. Keep your wits about you. We'll be back for you soon. Alright, let's talk to his brother then. Nocturna. I made the mistake of catching Heron's gaze from the other side of the cabin. He unceremoniously broke from the conversation he was in and approached me. Well, today has been eventful. You mean you don't do this every day? Not that I wouldn't like to. Ever since I met you, life has been significantly more exciting. Yes, Heron's definitely the flirt of the bunch. He is fun. You don't usually have occasion to come out to your infested woods. Every now and then. But the soldier's coming to collect you for assassination. Laciaga is stealing you back from Ecure's clutches. It's astonishing. I'm only sorry I've missed it firsthand. You're way too excited about this. Are you always this excitable, Heron? Modulate, doesn't it seem to you that it's all coming together just so? If you don't believe that, then doesn't at least the thrill of getting away with the scandal? Heron. Oh, he's fun. Fun. The scandal of the Kuthental in the heart of Galea with our Grand General at your heel. Doesn't that excite you? It's terrifying. Excite me? You can't be serious. This is terrifying, Heron. This is by far the most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me. I've nearly starved in the past, but this is something new altogether. It's all so unfathomable that I can barely breathe. Then, oh, Modulate, yes, I'm sorry. He started to move closer, but then stopped himself. Okay. I didn't mean to cheapen your fear. I understand how extraordinary this is. That's how frightening it must be. But you'll get through it. I've got the sense that just over the horizon, things will brighten considerably. Do you think so? Yes, I can't say I predicted what will become of you in the Kuthental, but I don't believe you'll be pursued anymore. I think you will do the pursuing. That would be a nice switch. I would welcome the change. Yes, would you seek revenge? To right the wrongs? To go home? To find answers? Find answers. I'd find answers and end to all these carefully chosen half-truths and unknowns on this cryptic, confusing island. And I would know exactly what plagues me and why this has happened in the first place. All answers I seek myself. And never doubt that should I learn anything, you are the first I would share it with. I nodded at him, regardless of how fruitful his promise would be. I appreciated the sentiment. So take heart. Don't let them manipulate you into obedience or being fearful when there is no cause. All will be well, Module. What is that word you keep using? Alright, I have to ask. What does that word you keep saying mean? Module? He smiled, averting his gaze. It means something like shining light. And the name of the game's Ebon Light. Alright. Why do you call me that? It's what you are. This man. Okay. I should at least keep an ear to whatever they're saying. He smiled at me, looking very much reluctant, walked back toward Julia and Ernol. Yep, he's definitely the flirt of the bunch. Alright. I talked to Vidane, the sweetheart of the bunch. The conversation Lacey and Vidane were having appeared strained, to say the least. They weren't yelling, which given their expression was something of a surprise, as though they were both exercising a great deal of control to keep from getting in each other's faces. I ventured a little closer, and they both turned to look at me. I felt vaguely put on the spot. You're discussing your patrols around the cabin? Vidane nodded quickly. Yes, we both have duties to attend to, things we can't avoid if for appearances alone, so we're trying to divvy up schedules. Is it not going well? Better without interruption. What? Vidane's expression snapped, scowl instantly on his face. With an abrupt scoff, Vidane moved toward the corner of the cabin, ushering me along with him. These two love each other. They just love each other. Oh my. Don't listen to him. You've had blow after blow today, I hear. I'm glad you got here safe. You're really beating the odds, Nocturna. I was just waiting for Heimdall to come out with all these puns. Vidane, yeah. Okay. Anyway. The Kithendall hasn't killed me or driven me mad yet either. And to top it off, I'm staying ahead of the whole poisoned with an ancient curse spiel. Near as I can tell, I haven't gone mad, and near as I can tell, I'm not dead. Yes, you seem neither mad nor dead to me as well. You've been holding back. Though who's to say how reliable our judgments are? Ignorance is bliss. I can't really give estimates on what exactly, or when exactly I'll be able to check in with you, and given that it might be any hour of the day, we should come up with some kind of signal. Something nonverbal would be best, in case subtlety is important. How about 2 knocks on the door, a pause, 3 knocks on the door, a pause, 1 knock. 2, 3, 1. I'll let La Siaga know. Looking around this cabin is strange. La Siaga and I working together on something strictly outside of duty, however doubtful I am of his intentions, that is strange enough. But Dulier and Heron? Calipoa and Ernol? I'm glad there's so much interest in the Kithendall, if only for your sake. But know that I'll do what I can to get you back home, Nocturna. I'm not sure if that's what I want. I don't know if that's what I want. Really? I know, that must sound strange, but I'm simply not sure if I want to go home right now. Well, I wouldn't force you home any more than I'd force you here. The decision should be yours. He gave me one last smile and made his way back to his prior discussion. You're up, Lacey. Lacey? From the corner of the room where Vidane and Lacey were in the midst of their pleasant conversation, Lacey's head swiveled in my direction with a sort of incredulousness. What? Can I talk to you for a moment? What? After a moment, he left Vidane and walked toward me. What is it? You just happened to be on the docks at the right time? Were you following me? Following you. As though there isn't precedent. You just happened to swoop in right before that elf gutted me? I was not following you. I tracked you. That's what I do. Dulier summoned me when he first got wind of the soldiers approaching his estate. I arrived shortly after you left, and then I found you. Luckily for you, Vidane made up a password for when he would check in on you. I trust he mentioned it to you? Yes. Be sure to remember it. We're not the only scouts that still wander out here to hone their skills from time to time. It's entirely possible another will come, and if you get careless or make stupid assumptions, you'll likely end up dead. I understand. I think you should be most concerned about the assassins. If Mietwin is meddling with this because she has fancies of her own involving you, you might end up wishing you'd been merely executed. Mietwin is the Grand General Galois's wife. So yes, the lady that sent the assassin after me is the General's wife. A.K.A. Ernal, Heron, and Vidane's grandmother. That's who sent the assassin to get me. Wonderful. Wonderful. I know. Any scout out here to find you will likely not be explicitly looking, though that may change, if Galois intentionally deploys my fellow scouts in search of you. But Dulier thinks Galois has every reason to believe you're still in the city. It is the assassins who are not restrained by their master's preconceptions. They go where they please. So do pay attention. The harpies are only beasts, and if you refrain from making a target of yourself, you'll be safe in here. Gram is violent. Yes, she is. Ay, ay, ay. I just like teasing him. This is why it's a good thing you're here. Good thing you're here. The others haven't mentioned the assassins. They wouldn't. That is the nature of Mietwin's movements. She works best while ignored. There's a surprised and unnerved part in me that could only stare at Lacey as he talked. I have to finish with Vidane. He walked away. Oh my. Alright. So that's them. Talking to all of them. Alright. Where is this? Where are we at? I don't know. 1423. Was that the last one? Fine, somewhere to sit. I'm done talking. I glanced around the cabin again in one final exhausted sweep before taking a seat on one of the cabin's 3 beds. This is where I would be spending my next few days. After the elves left, I did my best to get comfortable. They're all leaving me. None of them like me. Well, I don't know. Heron seems to. Vidane, kind of. The other ones, I don't know. I couldn't help but notice the similarities to the cabin I grew up in. Helpfully, there were still certain stark differences that kept the illusion at bay. I'm surprised it's taken me this long to start getting hungry, because I ate at 5 a.m., and now it's like 20 till 3. So, got about 20 minutes left, so we'll see how much more we can manage. Are you asking who I'm going to pick this time? I don't know. I've already got the ending with Ernal, because he was with me when a certain event happened that kind of triggered the love thing. But that was when I was doing this. Every time I had to pick one of them, I'd pick a different one, just so I get a chance to get to talk to all of them. And I didn't know that the event that triggered the true love thing was coming, because it was the first time I did it. So I just happened to be with Ernal then. So I picked him just because he was there when that event triggered. But I don't know who I'm going to pick this time, because personally, I think Lacey's the hottest one. I think he's the hottest one, and they're all pretty hot. Well, I'm not really that into Dulier, but Heron is very flirty, which is very nice. Vidane is very, very sweet, though. So, yeah, I don't know. I've already gotten the ending with Ernal, so I probably won't do that again, just because I've already seen it. But, yeah, Lacey's really hot and quite funny. Vidane is really, really sweet, and Heron's very flirty, which is very endearing. And I'm not really that into Dulier, though. So, I don't know. I don't know. Yes, tough. It is very tough. I don't know. Okay. It'll be a while before I have to pick, but yeah, I don't know. All right. The wooden plank keeping the door locked from the inside was a particular comfort that Vanya and I never had. I never really had anything to fear from anything that could open doors before. I was again and again astounded by how well armed the abandoned cabin was. The more I dug around, the more weapons I found. In addition to 3 old swords and a stringless bow, there was a catch including an axe, a small blade, a rope, and a bowstring. Yeah, I was thinking maybe try Lacey. Even though I know he's the one that's like the least friendly, so to speak, but he's also quite funny and very hot. So I don't know. I was thinking I'd probably go with Lacey, but I don't know. Heron and Vadine are very, very, very tempting as well. So it's tough. It's tough. I guess it's slightly easier now just because I already have done one ending. So that makes it easier for me not to pick Ernal. I mean, I did like the ending I got with Ernal. It was good. But I already done that. So it's like, I don't know. Sweet boy, flirty boy. Abrasive but very funny, very hot boy. I don't know. It's very tough to decide. I put the axe under the makeshift mattress I'd assembled and kept the blade with me at all times. An old scouting blade. As the elves had suggested, I remained as quiet as I could. This is sort of transition-y. I know I just saved, but... But it was difficult to remain quiet for what felt like days. The cabin had no windows, only slits in the walls covered by metal. I wasn't completely sure what they were for, but I got in my head that they were designed for shooting arrows through. I tried to peel back the metal once, but it made such a loud noise I thought better of it immediately. If you think with your crotch shiny heart instead of your head, who does it choose? Vidane's the one that seems to genuinely care. Heron is interested, but it might just be out of curiosity. But he is interested and he is quite sweet as well. But Vidane seems to genuinely care. But I so enjoy Lacey, not just because he's hot, but he's got quite a few funny parts in this. Extremely funny, especially since it's him. So, it's really difficult. I know, it's really hard to try to decide. I know, it's tough. It took me hours and hours to pick one. I think I sat there for like 2 hours. Is that a pun? But yeah, I think I sat there for like 2 hours trying to decide who to pick. And then I just decided, okay, because Ernal was there when I got the thing that apparently triggered the love event thing, and another character in the story had told me at some point, oh, Ernal's in love with you. That was finally the reason I picked Ernal in the first run, just because of that. I'm like, okay, I have no idea who to decide, but according to this other character, he actually is in love with me, so I guess I'll go with that. So that's how I decided on Ernal, and I did get a happy ending after I died the one time, but it had nothing to do with him. But still, yeah, it was really difficult. It took a long time for me to pick one. So now it's slightly less difficult because now Juliet is fine, but I'm not really that into him. But he's fine. So really it's only between flirty, curious boy, genuinely caring boy, hot, abrasive, but funny boy. So I don't know. It's very hard. Alright, anyway. Thus I was resigned to stay quiet in a dim cabin with a single lantern. It was difficult to determine the time of day, and as a result, I wasn't sure how much time had passed, but I knew it had been at least 2 days. There was such a strange temptation to try one of the window slits again, or better, peek outside the door. One that grew stronger by the hour. The scouts hadn't been able to tell me how long it would be until until they'd be able to check on me. I suppose 2 days had seemed like more than enough time because I find it increasingly difficult to remain calm. My mind began to conjure up scenarios where the scouts had been caught, all the elves aiding in our schemes rounded up, and an executioner on his way to the cabin at any given moment, or worse, I'd be left out here to rot, merely waiting until I ran out of supplies, or was finally driven out into the forest of harpies, racing for the shore where I could not swim. The mental theatrics were not helping. Knock, knock. My eyes darted to the cabin's door. A soft, rapid tap trailed from outside the door. It moved along the wall until it stopped at the corner of the cabin. Then it began again. Having turned the corner, the tapping then made its way deeper, homing in on where I stood. Shouldn't that be honing with an N, not an M? But anyway. I stayed as still as I could, barely daring to breathe. My eyes began to burn as I refused to blink. No further sound came. Do nothing. Stay still. I stayed as still as I could, eyes unable to tear away from where I heard the tapping last. Horror was rapidly building in my gut as I began to piece together the possibilities. Surely it wasn't Vidane or Lacey come to check on me. This definitely was not the password we'd decided on. I began to question everything any of the elves have told me. Their motivations were surely unknown to me, and perhaps this was part of their scheme. Were they trying to provoke me? Frighten me? Or is it not an elf at all? There were no further sounds. With each breath I thought I'd provoke something from outside the wall, but nothing came. Stay put a while longer. I told myself to stay quiet a while longer, that surely whatever was on the other side of the door had not left so quickly. I continued to stand as still as I was able, willing every muscle and bone in my body to still. After an insufferably long time, the noise returned. Actually, I want to check her traits again. So this is where I stand so far. I've got really high curiosity, daring, cunning, pretty high on might, charm, and tenacity, getting higher on amity and charity, little bit in desire, tiny bit in rest, not doing great on vice or doubt, but I guess those aren't really good things anyway, right? So that's how my traits stand right now. I don't know. Can I change clothes yet? This is the one I bought in the last game. I love that dress. Sure, I'll wear that. But anyway. After an insufferably long time, the noise returned. The tapping had moved to the other side of the cabin where the beds were. I watched it as calmly as I could manage, knowing that any noise I made would be a mistake. I could think of a little more to do than wait it out, certain now that this was a beast, likely one of the harpies I'd been warned about. At a guess, it wasn't certain of my presence yet, though of course I couldn't know for sure. After an hour, the sound stopped, only coming again many hours later. It happened much as it had before. The thing tapped all along the cabin, only to eventually give up, and the noise faded away. But I managed to stay quiet. I'd grown paranoid of any sound I made, so I ended up moving very little. I lay in bed, waiting for whatever was next, when something did happen. Despite all I had been anticipating, I was caught by surprise. I heard a voice, a soft, subtle whisper of voice. It spoke not quite in my mind, nor quite in my ear, rather somewhere in between. Outside. Outside. What new terrible thing was it now? The voice had no direction, no place to look for the speaker. There was no speaker, and certainly I couldn't respond. I needed to stay quiet. And to whom would I respond? Myself? To look around. Though the voice didn't seem to have any tangible origin, I found myself searching my surroundings for any evidence all the same. There was nothing but the eerie cabin I had grown used to, and me, alone. The voice said no more. I hadn't slept for fear of making noise, unhinged as I was by everything else. I warned you. That voice, what was it? It wasn't mine. When I heard 2 taps, a pause, 3 taps, a pause, 1 tap, I nearly leapt out of bed. And Vidane says, Nocturna! Vidane! He says, you must stay quiet, help. As quietly as I could, I opened the door to allow Vidane in. He let out a relieved sigh once he was in, then smiled briefly at me while putting the door's lock back in place. Stay quiet. Taking his prior request to heart, I stayed quiet despite the barrage of questions I wanted to ask. He gave the door another look, and then he motioned me deeper into the cabin. We both stayed quiet for a long time. He kept his eyes fixed on the front door with an intense sort of focus that did nothing for my nerves. There was little to do in silence but remained still in wonder. What was the full nature of the beings outside the cabin and the situation I was in? Were they all around? How many? Was there any clear path to escape? All of which went flying out the window when a loud knock came from the cabin door. Vidane blew a breath of relief. Good. Assuming I could finally speak then, the first question to spring out of my mind came without much thought. Who is it? I'm not sure who it is exactly, but it's one of the others to take you back into the city. There were harpies surrounding this cabin. This definitely didn't go as smoothly as Julia thought it would. He carefully opened the door. Juliet. Badane sounded a little surprised. You're a very dependable elf in situations like this, aren't you, Vidane? I appreciate it. I didn't do it for you. All the same. You didn't come alone, did you? He didn't come alone. He certainly didn't. As futile in a fray as ever. Oh, shut up. We all know who put the legwork in here. Calipoa. I like her a lot, too. She's fun. Commander? It's Nocturna, and in one piece. That does warm a cold heart. When they told me they were keeping you out here, I thought they'd all lost their minds. It obviously worked out. Are you alright, Vidane? Yes, it was all a little too close for comfort, that's all. I'm glad Nocturna is okay. The way is clear. We shouldn't talk here. There'll be more of them in short time. He means clear in the sense that the harpies are dead. I hope you're not squeamish, Module. I'm not. Let's go. I nodded. I'm not. Excellent. Let's go. As you say. Oh, yay. But we're just about out of time, folks, and we are at a transition. So, we will go ahead and save here. And I'm getting very hungry now, too. And plus, I gotta go do stupid crap in my other game soon. So, thank you for hanging out. I know it's not really a typical game that I usually play, but if anybody's interested in seeing more of the story, please let me know. Because I do enjoy this story. It is interesting, to say the least. And, of course, we still have to figure out who I'm gonna decide on. Sweetheart, flirty boy, Lacey, I don't know. But thanks for hanging out, and I will probably, hopefully, be streaming on Monday. I might do DOS, I might do Dragon Age. I don't know. Do you guys want me to see more of this? I don't know. Let me know. So, yeah. Again, I'm out of here, and hopefully I'll see you all on Monday. Bye for now, everybody.